Reminder, if you have a cell phone, go ahead and mute it or turn it off. It's up to you. Our roll call, we're down one. Pledge of Allegiance is going to be offered by our Vice Mayor, Richard Ortega, following the invocation offered by Eric Baete from the River Church. Would you stand with me for the pledge and remain standing for the prayer?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Amen. Thank you, Vice Mayor, and thank you, Eric. Appreciate that. Citizens' comments on agenda items. I prefer to take these up during the agenda item, if that's okay with the three that I have. Are you guys okay with doing those during the agenda, or do you guys want to speak now? Anybody want to speak now on it, or are we okay? All right. We have citizens' comments on a non-agenda item. Dr. Bryce, I'll take the fall on this one. So we're going to have you come up and speak to us, and I'm going to get it on the agenda for next meeting. And I do apologize. I don't know that it was 100% my fault, but I'll go ahead and take it.
No, it's not 100%. So, but thank you. Just as a quick comment, so the council may be aware that there is a National Day of Service in commemoration of the events of 9/11 coming up the week after Labor Day weekend, of course. That's the weekend closest to 9/11. In commemoration of that, there is an organization that we're bringing here called Feed My Starving Children. It's an organization that was started back in the 1980s in Minnesota by a businessman there after he saw the need of children overseas. What they do is donors provide the funds for the ingredients that go into these very simple meals. It's soy, it's rice, it's vitamins, it's a few things like that. Those are combined and then sent to various places around the world. They have a very good reputation over the last 40 years. More than 95% of their donations, the donated money goes directly to either providing the food or the transport of the food around the world. Some of you have probably participated in the one down off Alma School in Mesa. My wife and I went and did that recently, had a very good experience, and we thought that that would be something that would really be a blessing to our community as something to not only commemorate 9/11, but also to bring us together as a community. To my knowledge, there hasn't been a really big community service project since before COVID. This event offers the opportunity to bring over 500 volunteers together over a 2-day period, September 2nd and 3rd. That's the Friday and Saturday of Labor Day. And the plan is during those 2 days that we will be providing the 100,000 meals, pediatric-sized meals, to be shipped where they're needed around the world. Those who participate will subsequently get an email and follow up on where the food they packaged, where it went in the world. So when my wife and I went, it went to the Philippines and Thailand. There is also a lot of work going on now, of course, in Ukraine and in other places around the world. I brought brochures for the council. I have extras that I'll leave on the back for those interested parties. My involvement is simply as a corporate sponsor, the same thing that we're asking of the city. We've gone to Town of Thatcher, other local businesses who are each donating $2,500 for a total of $25,000 to bring it here. It comes out to just several cents a meal, all said and done. It's being held at the airport. We're donating on the use of our facility for those 2 days in order to be able to carry that out. If you have signed up, thank you. If you haven't, there are, at last count, there were 22 spots remaining of the over 500 slots that have been opened for this project. So it's a big project. It's a community-wide project. It's a non-denominational project. It is simply meant to bring all those interested parties of the Gila Valley together to do something that's truly worthwhile. So with that, I'll leave you with some brochures. I'll leave some more in the back, and thank you for your consideration.
Thank you, Doc. And since it's non-agenda items, we're not to be able to respond, but I appreciate you coming, and once again, I apologize. Bring us to item 7, new and old business minutes. Tammy?
So I have the April 25th and May 23rd, 2022 City Council minutes for approval. Was there any questions on them?
Mayor, make a motion, we approve the minutes.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. Brings us to item 2, library makerspace policy and waiver. Victoria?
Good evening, Mayor and Council. This is a request for the Mayor and Council to approve a makerspace policy and waiver for participants utilizing that space. A little bit of background on it. The makerspace will be included in library services within the library building starting in September of this year. For the purposes of the library, the makerspace is defined as a workspace where individuals with common interests in technology, science, art, and entrepreneurship meet, create, and collaborate. Additionally, it will exist to facilitate hands-on informal learning opportunities and gain access to the latest technology to encourage entrepreneurship. We will have programs weekly led by our makerspace coordinator and additional programming in the future as requested and as we see needs arise in the community. There will be also reserved time slots available for personal projects, pending the availability of resources and staff as well. And when the makerspace is completed, it will include 3D printers, a router, a laser engraver, a Cricut machine, and a recording studio. And we've attached the policy and waiver to provide public guidance on using and operating the materials in the area safely. And I just will note that the city attorney has reviewed these as well, and he's comfortable with the policies and waivers as they are. Are there any questions?
Entertain a motion.
So moved. Second.
We have a motion and a second to approve the library makerspace policy. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. Item 7.3, engine for landfill dozer. Lance?
Yes, good evening, Mayor and Council. This is a request for the Mayor and Council to approve and authorize the transfer of contingency funds to cover the expense of an emergency purchase of a Cat reman engine for our landfill D7R dozer. Last month, our landfill dozer shut down and Empire was asked to come diagnose it. After we evaluated the engine, it was determined that we broke an exhaust valve, which entered the cylinder, causing damage and basically blew the motor. After further evaluation by our staff and Empire, it was determined the best course of action was to replace the engine. The timeline for repairs is about a month from authorization, therefore an emergency purchase order was approved or was requested by staff and approved by the city manager on August 10th, 2022. Just a little background, the bulldozer, landfill dozer is a machine that we use 6 days a week at the landfill and is a vital piece of our operation out there. This machine is a 2008 D7R Caterpillar dozer. It's been in service since 2007, November 2007. Staff has also started looking at the idea of budgeting for a complete rebuild of this dozer, similar to what we did with our scraper last year. This engine replacement would obviously be a step in that process and would already be completed at that time. The alternative would be to purchase a new dozer, which would run us anywhere from $800,000 to $1 million if there was one available. Staff's recommending approval to authorize the transfer of contingency funds to cover this expense of purchase of an installation of a Cat reman engine for our D7R dozer in the amount of $92,317.11. Funding will come from the FY22 contingency funds, and to cover the expenditures and reserves will provide the revenue. Is there any questions?
Lance, preventative maintenance, could a little bit better preventative maintenance saved us this $92,000?
No, this was a complete fluke. We have preventive maintenance done constantly. We even have oil samples taken from not too long ago. There was no sign of any problem. This was just a fluke where basically a cylinder blew up, went in there and caused some damage that was irreparable. So.
Does this new remanufactured engine come with the warranty?
I'm sure it does. I'm not exactly sure what that is, but I'm sure it does. I can find that out and let you know.
Warranty would have been. You had something?
Yeah.
Go ahead.
The contingency fund money's coming from what?
It come from the landfill fund.
From where?
The landfill fund?
A landfill, is some other project giving it up for?
No, this would be contingent. It would come out of our fund
Comes out of your
balance,
budget,
basically.
Arnold.
Well, I know I ain't got that much in there, but sometimes another project surrenders or suffers when you do
No, this isn't gonna take anything away from anything currently budgeted. It would use our fund balance to cover the cost.
Okay, sir, thank you.
I'll move we approve the new engine for the landfill bulldozer.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to approve the remanufactured engine for the landfill. Any more discussion? Did you get your question answered on the contingency money?
Yeah, still tight, but
Okay. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes.
Thank you.
Item 7.4, Salsa Fest liquor license, Pam.
Sorry about that. Good evening, Mayor and Council. This is a request for the Mayor and Council to recommend and approve to the Department of Liquor License and Control for the following Fair Festival license applications: the Graham Chamber Sponsored Dinner application and the Graham Chamber Salsa Fest application. The attached applications are in association with the Graham County Chamber of Commerce Salsa Fest and request that they be approved individually. The first one is the Graham Chamber Sponsored Dinner. If I get this, excuse me. Still learning this text. Sorry about that. This is for the Graham Chamber Sponsored Dinner. The attached liquor license for the Graham Chamber Sponsored Dinner that will take place on Thursday, September 22nd at 5 p.m. to 10 p.m. at the venue on Main. The venue is an indoor 2-story facility with exits on Main Street and 5th Avenue. Each exit will be staffed with security personnel to ensure those open containers do not exit the facility. Staff or police will be informed of the special event license. Security personnel will check government IDs and use wristbands. And then there's a map that is attached to that. Do you have any questions for that one?
So really, we're just asking for approval for 2 site locations, one on City Hall and one on the venue, correct? For
Correct.
tonight?
And 2 different dates.
And 2 different
Like-
dates. One's Thursday, the other one's Friday night, correct?
Correct.
And Saturday.
Yes, Friday and Saturday, correct.
So moved.
We have a motion
Second.
and a second. We have any more discussion on that? Arnold, you okay with the security and
we're
everything?
still talking about the first one.
No, I'm ready to go on with
On the
both.
other,
I
just
think
wanna
it
make sure
specifically
again.
says to do them separate,
We're doing it separate, then this is the first one, the venue.
if I understood it right.
Okay. Then this is for the venue. I have a motion and a second for the venue only Thursday night. Good?
Good.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. Now we're going on to Salsa Fest, Friday and
For the
Saturday.
salsa.
So move.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to approve, the Salsa Fest on the city lawn on Friday and Saturday. That's the motion before us. Do we have any discussion?
I just always and every time wanna make sure security does keep them corralled
Yes.
and not walking around any more than what the festival allows.
Right.
Okay, that's all I got,
And
man.
I think we've been doing this for quite a few years now, and I don't think we've ever had an issue.
No,
Right,
not that I'm
so-
aware of.
We're, and then, but it's just to appease, Councilman Lopez's, his mind and stuff, that I feel like they've done a really good job with that as well, so. Motion and a second to approve City Hall lawns for 2 nights, Friday and Saturday. Any more discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. Thanks, Pam.
Thank you.
Bring us to item 8.1, resolution R22-33, Public Safety Personnel Retirement System, PSPRS, Deferred Retirement Option Plan, which is quote-unquote drop program. I believe this is Danielle.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. This is a request for Mayor and Council to adopt Resolution R22-033. Resolution adopting new public PSPRS Deferred Retirement Option Program in order to follow new options in regard to how long public safety personnel can participate in the PSPRS drop program. Previously, the PSPRS allowed public safety officers to participate in the drop for 60 months or 5 years. On July 6, 2022, the Senate approved an extended participation time period of up to 84 months or 7 years for certain members. The City of Safford recognizes that it's able to retain experienced public safety personnel for a longer period of time. There are currently 5 officers in drop and a possibility of 2 additional officers eligible to enter the drop program. Other than providing continued wages and benefits to those police officers that choose to extend their drop period, there is no significant financial impacts if the City of Safford changes the PSPRS participation period from 5 to 7 years. It is recommended that resolution number R22-033, a resolution adopting new policy PSPRS drop program, be approved to allow for members to participate up to 7 years if eligible. Any questions?
Councilman Lopez?
This was just passed in July, just last month.
Yes.
There's no set time we have to approve this,
No.
so we can take our time about it.
Yes.
Because I certainly would like to take a little bit more time. I would like Mr. Seal to be present and have his input on this. And also getting ready to go to the League of Cities and Towns. I personally would like to talk to other cities and towns on how they're approaching this. It seems like a win situation. Therefore, we don't have to be in a hurry to do it, I don't believe. And I think the item that comes up in the work session will add some other light to this. So I would like to hold off on voting on this, taking action.
Mayor, do we have to do a motion for a table, this item, or?
Yeah, we'll need to table this, but I do have some more questions. Anybody else have any other questions? Do you have any other questions on that?
Not at this minute, no.
What is the retirement age of a police officer?
I'm unsure. Glenn,
It's
do you want to
20,
come up
correct?
and,
I think it's 20,
yeah, 20 years, I
and
believe.
then they entered the drop program at 20, or a little before 20, or?
Mayor, Council, the retirement age is based on when they started. It's a 20, for the ones that can go into drop, it's a 20-year or 25, depending on what tier they were hired in. And then they can go into drop and do up to 5 years. Depends on when they decide to go into drop. Myself, I went in at 27 years. So most of them are usually between 20 and 25, 26, but we have some that have gone farther before they go into it.
So the drop previous to this that was just adopted by the state in July was 5, correct? An officer could reach the 20-year retirement, go into drop, and extend their career for another 5 years, which saves the city money. I want to make
Yes,
sure
sir.
we understand that. And now we can extend that 5 to up to another 7, correct?
No, sir. It would be the 5 plus 2.
5
So
plus
it's
2, which is only
up to 7
7.
years, and the last 2, the money's put into a separate account that the city never pays into, so there's no financial loss to the city at all.
Okay, say that again.
So in during the drop, there's still a small loss to the city they have to pay in. During the last 2 years, there's no financial obligation from the city other than their salary and their insurance that they're on anyway as an employee. There's no retirement liability to the city during those last 2 years.
So when we enter into that, if your wage was X amount of dollars, and you're saying the last 2 years, you don't get to claim that retirement wage if your wage fluctuated up to a higher rate, correct? Is
The-
is that what I'm understanding or no?
Mayor and council, yeah, you're understanding correctly, but that's actually true for the entire drop. So once they go into the drop, their retirement does not change. It's locked in for that entire 5 years.
It's
This would
been
be
locked in, so regardless of where they fluctuate here or there, their retirement was locked in back
Yes,
at
sir.
that drops area.
Yes, sir.
So it doesn't hurt us once you're in a drop system and you were to be raised for us to have to match the funds, correct?
No, sir. During the time the officers are in the drop, there is no requirement for the city to pay retirement for that officer in the drop. We use it to help pay back the unfunded liability and those kind of things, which is still good to keep doing, but it's not required to pay into retirement. Their retirement is locked in at that rate.
Okay. I appreciate you answering those questions for me. Is the council okay to give us, bring this back on, let's pick a date here. To give us enough time, Councilman Lopez, would you be okay with the end of September meeting? That'll give you time to have the city, at the will of the council, for you to meet with your constituents and to talk about it, and then come back on in the end of September, or do you want to postpone it even further? Let's give them a
I
date.
think we're required to, if we table it, we're required to do it by the next meeting, I believe.
Tam,
I
is
don't
that-
know.
No,
No.
it's whenever we make the date, right?
It doesn't have to be the next meeting. You can set a date for it to come back to.
I think the only stipulation is something has to be done because monies transferred would be January 2023, and it's just, there's just more questions I have, Mayor, on who all may possibly be involved. We had changes on the horizon that were kind of planned, how they're gonna be affected, and,
Yeah,
yeah.
I understand what you're saying. I would have liked to have seen this as a work session instead of just an instant resolution myself, just to hear us kick it around a little bit more. You guys okay with kicking it around some more? So are you okay?
I'm okay with that.
And instead of it being an actual action item, can I have some discussion on it for a work session?
Okay, why don't we do it, Mayor, Council, why don't we just do it on the 12th, do the work session, that would put you at the end of September to do adoption.
No, I don't want to do it on the 12th. I want to do it at the end of the month to give Councilman Lopez his due
I
diligence.
just would like a full council to be involved in this one.
Are you all right with that?
Yeah.
Work session first, and then we bring it back. That would be the 1st of October for.
Because we're gonna kind of have a little work session here in a little bit.
Well, that's
on
it,
some
and
of this,
that could bounce off
Okay.
of this as well.
Okay.
Are you okay with that?
Yes, sir.
Council okay with that? Okay, so we're going to have a work session on that on the second meeting in September. Okay, table.
Thank you.
Thank you. Resolution, 9, item 1, contracts and agreements, golf course contract update. Jamie?
Good evening, Mayor and Council. This is a request for the Mayor and City Council to authorize the assignment of the Mount Graham Golf Course Management Agreement to Troon Golf LLC. Staff has consulted with the City of Stafford attorney, and he recommends authorization. OB Golf is who OB Sports is who our current contract is with. They were absorbed by Troon Golf. You'll notice that on the signatory page of the letter, Phil Green is representing them both. So we still deal with the same people for our contract. We still have the same manager. Nothing has changed except the entity who is responsible for their end of the golf course management contract. With that, I will stand for questions.
Do you have any questions on the name change of the contract?
I move we approve it.
Second.
We have a motion to approve and a second. Go ahead, Councilman
I
Lopez.
did have the question, but you answered it because Mr. Green is still gonna be involved with it.
Yes, sir.
So I'm at the bottom of representing both, so
Yes.
he is still who we're dealing with now.
Yes, sir.
All right, you okay with it?
Yes, sir.
All right, we have a motion and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? The motion passes. Item 10, which is your reports. Everybody have a chance to look at the P-card report? I'm just gonna ask this question, and I don't want to get stones thrown at me, but, Councilman Lopez, do we like having the P card report sent to us, or not? I'm just asking.
Yeah.
You like having it?
Yeah, yes, I
Okay.
do. It tells me a lot of the flow. I do have a question on, for example, we purchased a lot of fill for 14th Avenue, and it said something about the effluent water pipeline. Now, I had to question, are we paying for that fill, or is the contractor paying for that fill? Because that adds up. We're getting into $5,000 on it now. And
Did you get your question answered, though?
No, I haven't asked it yet.
Okay.
But I'm answering yours. That it does tell me some things when I get to read it. Do you mean having it in a meeting like this?
Yes,
If
I was just wondering if we would rather just see it on a report as what Manager Costella's been going to be giving us, if we wanted to see it in that kind of a format instead of an actual format in front of the public. But that's cool. I'm okay with either way, and I just wanted to bring that up. And so with that, you answered my question. We'll leave it alone. And you you have some questions on it. I'm glad that you have some questions, and I want to hear them.
when there are questions, I do get the call for clarification, the department heads or whoever's involved, and we usually get it straightened out. But I like it in this form because I have no other way to talk to you should I need to.
Perfect. I get it. Okay, perfect. So with that, the P card report, do you have questions on it?
No, I've got told things already that.
Okay, well, what happened with that, Phil? What did you come up with?
That one, there's not an answer. There was so many that I still have to go back, and I'm told the
Because,
department-
if you're gonna ask those questions, I wanna hear
That's the one I
public, we
had.
don't wanna hear it.
That's the one I had, is we bought about $5,000 worth of fill, and the way it's written is 14th Avenue, and for the pipe that's going to the park, the effluent water pipe. And so I don't see, if it's for that project, that's the contractor that does that.
Yeah,
I know there's some reason, but I just
Yeah,
don't know. what
I
it
do
is.
believe that, that the city did run some influent on their own, up to, I think it was Bulldog or the high school. And so maybe it was for that. I don't know. I can't answer their questions, but I get it, so.
And sometimes these questions take up a lot of the meeting, and then you guys later tell me stuff, and not bad stuff, but,
That's all right. I
take
do
up-
sometimes.
I take up quite a bit of meeting time lots of times when I can simply ask staff and they let me know.
Mayor and council, just like you said, the city has done some of that effluent pipeline extension in-house. And so some of those materials are being charged directly through us because that's being done by our guys.
Okay, yeah.
I probably should have answered your question. I should have let you do that
You
first.
took care of it
Dang
for me, thank you.
I also saw where patch was bought on, to patch the road, and it was like $1,800. Now, see, there, I don't think we spent enough money.
To patch roads?
Yeah,
I agree.
You know, because that patch that we're using, and bought a machine that's specifically for that kind of attacking a road base like that, and it lasts a lot longer. We tested it behind the courthouse. It did well. It's expensive, but I thought we should have bought more because we have more places we need to put it down.
So did you hear that? You just got the approval to spend more on patch material.
Yeah.
How about over 5,000 revenue report? Any questions on that? You just want to see more revenue report, more money coming in, I guess? Everybody good with that one? How about over 5,000 expenses? No questions on over 5,000. All right, that takes care of item 10.
Mayor,
Yes.
sorry, I wasn't quick enough to catch it earlier, but if we can actually go back to
Yes, and read
8.1
those
for the
resolutions.
resolutions, it doesn't need to be read, but we do need an official motion for it to be tabled, a second, and a majority vote for that to be tabled. If we could just get back to
Go
that.
ahead. You want me to do what again?
So if
Need a motion
Councilman
to-
Lopez would like to officially make the motion to table the resolution, and then we would need a second
That's
for
why-
his
that's why I
motion
was
to table it
inquiring.
and then a vote.
I thought that's what I did. You guys just didn't hear me.
Yeah.
Because in my head, I did that.
If we could just out loud do it officially.
Go ahead, Arnold, make that
I
official
would like to
motion.
make a motion that item 8.1, the resolution R22-033 be tabled.
And I want to add the date that that it is on what date?
September 26th is the second meeting in September.
And it'll be a work session item.
We will
correct?
note that, yes.
Okay. Are you okay with that
Yes,
motion?
sir.
You okay with your second? All those in favor?
Aye.
All right,
Thank you.
thank you. Sorry about that.
That's
I'll keep my mouth shut next time, okay?
Mikey, you need a scowl right here. Announcement of current events. You have something coming up, Mike?
I have nothing to report.
No? Okay. Request for future agenda
I got
items.
something.
Oh, you do? I'm
We're
sorry.
taking the STARS, which is the group that came up a few years ago and went to Thatcher Pima and came here and got our parks totally free of tobacco. They're also gonna represent us again this year at the League of Cities and Towns. I believe there's 6 of them going this time. They're Safford students. They were part of one of our conversations tonight with the park. They were on the board and listened to some of the things and had suggestions, and they have to give a presentation at this meeting, so they're jazzed isn't the word anymore. So they're hyped up to get going, so that's it.
Are you running the flag or are they running the flag?
They're gonna carry it, but I have to take it there, but
Okay.
we'll choose one of them to carry it.
Okay, that sounds great. All right, item 12, request for future agenda items. We'll put Dr. Bryce with his donations, please put on that on the first one. Also make that an action item, please. Anybody else have anything under agenda items? Okay, we're gonna move right along. Report on operational items. Sam?
Good evening, Mayor, members of the council. Back in November of 2021, the Arizona Commerce Authority launched a $100 million Arizona Broadband Development Grant to expand high-speed broadband to Arizona's unserved or underserved areas. I contacted Local First Arizona Economic Recovery Center and found municipalities of our size could utilize Local First Arizona's grant writers at no cost to us. We were assigned a grant writing consultant to assist in completing the grant application, which resulted in the city being awarded $63,968. One of the stipulations with this grant, we will have to provide a 10% grant match. The grant money will be used to pay for equipment and installation costs for 2 projects. The first one is the free Wi-Fi access downtown on Main Street and in front of City Hall. And the second one is 14th Avenue Reclaimed Waterline Fiber Project to offer free Wi-Fi to El Paso Park, Glen Meadows Park, and La Tierra Park. Both projects were originally scheduled to be funded with ARPA money, but with the award of the, with the award of the broadband grant, we can now pay for these 2 projects with grants.
Something went wrong. Please try again.
I agree, something went wrong.
All right. Sorry about that. Yeah, Siri would be a lot better, yeah. So, so now that we got awarded this grant, we can now pay for these 2 projects that were originally funded with ARPA money. So that'll free up that money to be utilized in other areas. So, is there any questions, or do you have any questions?
Sam, I do. First of all, I appreciate the work and getting this done. But you mentioned that you had to go out and seek a grant writer. How much did that grant writer cost the city?
It was absolutely free to the city.
That was free.
Mm-hmm.
We need to keep using that
Yeah.
grant writer then.
Right.
That secured us that type of fund, so thank you. Appreciate that. Go ahead.
In fact, that's one of your notes, that municipalities of this size can utilize local First Arizona grant riders at no cost to us.
Correct.
Does that mean just for this one, or from now on, we can tap them?
I don't know that answer, if it's just for this type of grant or if it was for any other kind of grants that we could apply for, so
But you're gonna ask them.
we can, yes.
Okay. You're gonna, and also, you're saying you're moving this along Glen Meadows, El Paso, La Tierra,
Mhm.
and I wanna make sure signal's gonna get to below the graveyard where we have targeted to build a park.
Yes.
It's gonna reach that also.
Yes. We got with our engineering department and made sure that we put a pull box right there so that when that park is developed, we'll be able to run a line across underneath the road, underneath Discovery Park.
All right, and we have signal in front of the annex building for the Friday group from the middle school.
Mhm.
Okay.
Mayor Council, just as an FYI to council, that Local First Arizona, that's the same organization that we do micro loans through. So my guess is we probably would have more access to grant writing. And I forwarded on to the utility director, there was another organization also offering grant writing. So there's some help out there. But this particular organization does our micro loan program.
Perfect. Any other questions? Go ahead.
Friday, I was at a Siegel meeting, and this, broadband, and that's a big issue. They're very involved in it, okay? And I think one thing that I think is very important, that expanding it the way, it's being done, it will be serving, underdeveloped areas. And especially that'll be helping, like say children, access to the internet and all this stuff. So there's a lot of good benefits. And Siegel is very much aware of it.
Sounds great. Any others? Thanks, Sam.
All right, thank you.
Thanks, Sam.
13.2, which is Give from the Heart program. Cabrina?
Good evening, Mayor and Council. I'm here tonight to give you an update on the Gift from the Heart program that was requested at our last council meeting. So first, I'd like to start off with a brief overview of what the Gift from the Heart program is, in case there's anybody out there that's not aware of it. The Gift from the Heart program is designed to assist households who are on a fixed or limited income and meet all of our eligibility criteria. The program is 100% supported by citizen donations, fundraisers organized by the City of Safford Business Services employees, and an annual donation of $10,000 by the City of Safford. Some of the fundraisers that are put on by the business services include candy and soda sales through City Hall, as well as raffles and our annual hot dog and nacho sale. Citizens can donate through the Roundup Plus program that's on their utility bill, or they can come in and do a one-time donation. The eligibility requirements is that they have an ID with the applicant's name and address. They must be a current City of Safford resident customer with an account in the applicant's name. They have to be primary residents. Proof of residency at the address where the discount will be received. They meet their minimum age requirement of 62 or above, have a social security card, and the total yearly income must be at or below 120% of the federal poverty guidelines that's posted on the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services. All sources of income at every household member must be included in that determination. Once an applicant is deemed eligible, they would receive the following discounts. There's individual service discount if you're based on gas, electric, or water, or if there's a combination of any of those, gas and electric, water and gas, or water, gas, and electric. If an applicant is eligible and enrolls in the program, they will receive their first Gift from the Heart credit on the next billing cycle, starting from the date that they enrolled. The Gift from the Heart customers will receive a credit on their utility bill every month based on the amount that was calculated above. And any late payments, penalties, and/or being locked due to non-payment will disqualify that customer from the program. So that brings us to where we are with the current program. Currently, the City of Safford has 22 customers enrolled in the Gift from the Heart program. We did have higher enrollment in previous years, but COVID has impacted those customers. A lot of them have passed away. An average of total of $980 is credited to every enrolled customer each month. If the funds are available in December, the balance in the Gift from the Heart account is utilized to pay the full eligible customer's utility bill due in December. On average, this costs about $3,500 in December. Roundup Plus generates approximately 5,200 donations annually to the Gift from the Heart, and the one-time customer donations in fiscal year 2021 was approximately $550, and in 2022, we've doubled that. During the hot dog sale and in October of 2021, business services raised approximately $1,230. And with that, I'd like to invite you to attend our upcoming hot dog sale. That's going to be October 20th, 2022, from 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. At the front of City Hall. Are there any questions on the current program?
Anybody have any questions?
What was that again about in December, if we have funds left over?
Mm-hmm. So with whatever's in the account, whatever's the balance of the account, if we have enough funds in that donation account, we will use it to pay off the December bill for those eligible customers.
And so each year we take that balance to zero?
Not necessarily.
No?
It depends on how many customers you have and how many donations have been put in.
But we try.
Yeah, that would be our goal.
Yeah.
So if you know anybody who
Yes,
you think is eligible, send them to business services and they'd be glad to help them with an application.
That's where I was gonna go with it, Katrina, because if you had anything left over, we're not advertising well enough. So you got something going with it. Now, on locked out, you're flexible a little bit, aren't you? Because there's lots of reasons, because lots of times these elderly people have their kids, or like me, handling their bills, and they're the ones that mess it up, not the elderly, so.
We would talk to them. They could come in
Okay.
and talk with us.
Just didn't want you to have a whip right away.
No.
Okay, thank you,
Councilman
Katrina.
Councilman Lopez asked basically what I was going to. Have we had a balance every December since we've done the program?
As far as I'm aware, yes.
Okay. And the roundups are part of this, correct?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Remind me the process for those. Is there still a box on the utility bill that you can check to?
I believe there is, but I would have to actually see a utility
Okay.
bill.
And the only reason I ask is I've checked that box myself,
Mhm.
and then nothing.
If it's it depends on how you're paying. If it's going to the lockbox in Phoenix, that could be part of the issue. But if you ever want to sign up for that, call one of the business
Just
services. Come in.
Because that
take
could be
care of
another
it.
issue with, there might be quite a few more people like me that have checked the box and then didn't know if there was more to do and nothing ever.
Okay.
I
can look into that and see what's going on.
Thank you.
Any others got any questions on the gift? Did you sign up to go sell hot dogs on the?
I'm open, I'll probably be there.
You'll be there?
Yeah.
Hey, did you ever get?
Eat them, they're good.
Yep.
You're good?
Yeah.
Did you ever get a ride in that new garbage truck?
I never did, is it here? Okay. I'll be sure to work on my CDL so I can drive it.
You won't get a raise if you get a CDL though.
Oh, okay, never mind, I'll stay off it.
Thanks, Sabrina. We're gonna go ahead and close the regular meeting and reconvene into our work session. Our first item on our work session is our Parks and Recreational Advisory Committee expectations and discussions. That will be by Jamie.
Good evening again, Mayor and Council. We have the committee here if they'd like to come up also to participate in the work session. And if you'd like, I have suggested some discussion items in your presentation, and we can work on those. We can answer questions the council had, we can answer questions the committee had. Really, it's just a good time for everybody to talk and kind of get the project kicked off. Would you like me to put the questions that I've prepared on the screen?
Up there?
Mm-hmm. Would you like that? Okay.
Page 112.
What page was that, Brent?
112?
112, and I'll put it on the screen.
All I want is a shovel-ready operation.
That's number 4.
Okay. So there are some questions that I came up with to begin, and it looks like we have 3 committee members here. So with that, I'll open for the council with any questions.
Go ahead, Councilman Lopez.
That's the question I keep getting is, when's the shovel gonna hit the dirt?
And so that's more of an operational item. That would be for Mr. Casella and an operational item question. So this committee in its previous life helped design that, but they won't. They'll be participating as the design goes along, but the RFP process, the RFQ process, that will be done by staff.
And my understanding is that's in the pipeline right now, right, the RFQ for the design?
We're talking about the agents.
Yes.
Yes.
RFP. So again, the gist of what we're doing here is obviously one of the items is the park. But I think the original request was that we wanted to have a chance to kind of share our expectations, the expectations of council with the committee, and then give them an opportunity maybe to relate to you why they were even interested in going further in the process in terms of extending the life of the committee. And so as part of the questions that Jamie has laid out here is that the idea is fundamentally that relationship. Staff is there to support the committee. The committee is the source of the ideas, right? That's the whole point of having the committee, is that we're trying to seek input from citizens who themselves are very active. So the hope is that the committee themselves had a desire and some level of vision. Now, what we did as part of the tasking is we put some of those items in there so that we created some definitive boundaries for the committee. Within those boundaries, they then are free to generate ideas, and as they generate those ideas, we can work on times when they can come back. So the layering essentially is that staff really is off to the side. The relationship is between the council and the committee, right, based on the tasking that you provided to them and the ideas they generate within that. And then staff's role is simply to be there to support them. So if they need to gather information, which is predominantly what staff would do, we can provide them with all the information technically, do the research to get them information that allows them to address a specific issue. So that's really important, right? Because I think in past conversations, we basically talked about, what role staff is. Staff needs to get out of the way, right? They're there to facilitate the meetings. They're there to support the committee. The committee hopefully will generate ideas within the tasking that council has provided, and then you can decide intermittently if you'd like them to come back, or if they have certain things or they reach a certain juncture where they feel they would like to bring you that advice or their experience, then we can put them on the agenda and they can come and have that conversation with you.
Go ahead, Vice Mayor.
I think just one thing I think is important for the parks and the recreation, the location, and then what, the age groups, that would kind of determine, where the parks are. For instance, young ones can walk, elderly, how do they have access to it? But just having different, events or things going on, or, activities that they can do in, the parks. In other words, have them well-rounded.
Vice Mayor Ortega, and again, they can jump in. One of the main focuses that we had early on when we were doing the park was that it was an intent to make it as broadly appealing as possible, right? So when we designed the 2 separate parks, they really had different demographics in mind, and as a result, the kinds of equipment that were put into them were different. Now that we've combined it all into one park, I think one aspect of the committee will be in working with the designer to make sure that we try to address as many of those demographics as we can within that one park space, because it's a large space, and in terms of even ADA compliance, right, that it's open to all. So I think part of that, since we're starting with that one park, it is rather large, there's a large space. I think part of, again, and they can jump in at any point. But they really addressed that and really focused on that when they first got their original tasking. So one of the challenges will be within the tasking they currently have is to try to translate all that demographic information as much as possible by combining the two parks and working with the designer to make sure that all of those things still get addressed as much as possible.
Go ahead.
Oh, I'm sorry, Mayor. I would just add that, kind of number 4, and I know the committee's already put a focus on accessibility, ADA requirements, and I appreciate that. And that's something I'd hope that would continue, is that focus on just making it as accessible as possible.
And to echo a little bit off of Councilman Hemphill, is the exact same thing as this the fact that don't get upset when the council comes back and alters the design a little bit. So to bring us designs and think of 3 items or whatever, don't just focus on this one design, thinking that you're going to get 7 of us to agree with a design. As you know, I mean, we can't hardly even agree on a date. So to think outside the box and to give us like options 1 and 2 or options 1, 2, and 3, so that when we know that we're budgeting 2.5, I wanted 3, but it kept getting dwindled down, and then giving it to engineers and everything else is even cutting into my stash a little bit more. But just to realize that there will be a budget on it as well. And so, of course, I want everything done. I want it grand, I want it big, but we might have to pull the purse strings a little bit to get what we need done. And I know that you guys can do your magic and you guys can make it happen. That's why, you guys have stayed together and are going to work. And you guys got a good group of people, and I'm excited to see what you bring to us. And I'm excited to have a shovel ready by the end of this year. Did you hear that, John? By the end of this year.
I'll let Lance know.
Yeah, okay, so. Go ahead,
I
Councilman.
eventually want them to pick their brains, because say there's a stage out there, out here by the graveyard. I still don't know which way you're gonna face it, dealing with the sun, how it's gonna go up and down, where there may be trees, where there may be what. There's a million things that are gonna be happening. And that's where I would like your input, where we're gonna put the bridge or the walkway that's gonna cross the wash. There's a lot of things going on. And also, I'm not quite sure how or what their involvement's gonna be with our IGA with the school. If any, I don't know, if they're just mainly parks.
I think we got the principal right there, so our IGA is pretty covered.
Just want you to know I really like the IGA. Not the grocery store, but the other IGA.
We like the grocery store too, but yeah.
Yeah, because again, talking to Mr. Bowman today, if we end up, say, with lights behind Ruth Powell, and we're looking to bring in sanctioned Little League tournaments, for example, them lights have to meet the standards of the Arizona Commission in order to have sanctioned tournaments. So there's a lot of things you're going to be thinking about, because I don't have the time. I want to go fishing.
I have a question, Mayor and Council. As far as the operation of how this is going to run, is there going to be a budget that we will be working with for each entity that we will be inventing or creating? So will we have a budget for a elementary playground, a budget for elderly workout equipment, a budget for the teens, or is this something that we're going to be working out with the designer?
I believe that we just secured you, $2.5 million, and so that's your guys' work.
Thank you.
But I'd like to see a band stage, definitely. I'd like to see areas for food courts, for the mobile food courts to come in. They can plug in, and then we get to sell them power or whatever. So I'm big on festive. I want to This, for some odd reason, I got complaints of us shutting down Main Street, go figure. And so this would be a great opportunity that we celebrate on Main Street, and then after, 10 o'clock, let's party up there, and if we wake up anybody over there, then we got really bad troubles. But let's wake them up, and let's party out there after 10 o'clock and go on until 1 o'clock in the morning.
That's what we have on our plan, so.
Perfect.
Yeah, and this is,
You'll be the only
Roger,
one to wake up.
keeping track of the
I'll be down there
equipment
partying with you.
that we're purchasing, the type
You
of
be playing.
equipment that you have been suggesting that meets the needs of certain citizens. I don't know them. You suggested a site for me once, and I went and looked at it, but you certainly have more knowledge about that, so if you can keep an eye on them for us, well, that'd be great.
Most definitely. We want to have equipment that's integrative to ADA and meeting the needs of our kids, meeting the needs of disabilities within our community. There's a lot of possibilities, and we open this thing wide open. So that could be grants, that can be a lot of different things, but hopefully with this much amount of money, we can meet the needs of everybody in our community and help our families have a place to come together and just celebrate being together.
Perfect.
And I would recommend, based on this conversation, that maybe at some point in that design process, that maybe we do a joint work session with the council and the committee and the designer as it unfolds, and share ideas in real time in a work session. That may allow us to kind of bounce ideas off one another, so that you never feel fully disconnected from the process, nor do you. And then at some point, those ideas kind of mix together, and you can do it in real time in a work session setting.
And I like that idea too. I wouldn't mind, I don't know if this is feasible anymore because we've gotten used to this format, but I wouldn't mind an old-fashioned work session with the tables for that and a sit-down.
And that's how it would work. Yeah, if we did something like that, we would literally lay everything out.
Right.
Probably even have the designer
Yeah.
there so they could, converse as to what we could or couldn't move. But I think at some point, you're gonna wanna be in the room together, looking at the design and having a conversation in real time.
Right.
Yeah, Mayor and Council, I like that approach because, when we worked together, it was great. We had people from all different areas of the community. They understood what we needed. To your point, Councilman Hempel, yes, we talked about age demographics, and Councilman Lopez, we did talk about the direction of the stage, and also Mayor Couts, we did talk about the power drops for the food truck. So, but it would be so much better if we did have that type of working relationship initially. Then we don't go do something and work the whole time, and then everything gets changed. It'd be a lot nicer if we had some, rules to go by.
Perfect.
So, thanks.
Jamie, one question I have, and I know you probably won't be able to answer this question, you'll have to get others up there, but did we put a valve so we can open up influent water and water that grass, because it needs to be green?
Lance, yes.
Yeah, we're just saying
Lance
yeah
and Jason
because
are
we want to
saying
say
yes.
yeah, but we did put a tap there.
There will be.
Yeah, same as the answer on the fiber optics. We have a pull box there, we have a plan, and when we go to run it across there, we'll tap that main, run it across there and have water for that.
So we do plan on tapping the main, we haven't tapped it yet. Okay, perfect. All right, I think, do you feel like you got enough direction from us? And really, I think we just need to give it to you guys, let you lead it, and then you bring us in midway, and we won't mess with your plans too much.
No, it's all good. The back and forth was great. We just need to know where and what, that's pretty much it.
You guys good?
Good. Yeah.
Perfect.
One question.
Go ahead.
Would it be all of you guys working with us, or just a couple, 2, 3 people working with us?
With the work session, it'll be it'll probably be all 7. But I don't know that all 7 will be vocal. You okay with that, or would you rather have a committee from us? You guys good with that? And Jamie, out of her budget, will supply us like snacks and stuff.
We experienced this, why I'm asking, we experienced the same thing. We've had big round tables, 10 ideas. It's hard to get focused in on a lot of things. We got more done when we kind of simplified things, and there was a smaller group of us. We were able to get more done, kind of, so.
I kind of think that you take that same approach and you simplify it to us, because we like simple, and then say you guys want to change anything, and we'll do our best to keep it simple back. Does that sound good?
Yep, sounds great.
You're not asking any more that other boards that we're on, we're the liaison and nobody else wants us in their hair either.
All right. You guys, appreciate you. Thanks for your service. Thanks for your time. We do appreciate it. I'm going to go ahead and hold off on the police department. That could be some time. I want to go ahead and hit the Gila Valley Samaritan House real quick, so that if they need to go, we don't take up too much more of their time. So if the council's okay with that, I'd like to move item 3 up, and let's go ahead with the Samaritan House. So at this time, I do have 3 people. Would you guys like to hear the presentation first that John has, and then chat about it? Does that sound good? All right, John, go ahead and take it.
All right. Staff is seeking direction from mayor and council regarding possible participation in the operation of a local facility, which we're calling the Gila Valley Samaritan House, that would provide a place for homeless and transient persons to find relief from the elements. This is not a homeless shelter and would not allow for overnight stays.
Could you say that again?
This is not a homeless shelter and would not allow for overnight stays.
Okay.
The background on this is, as you probably are well aware, this idea has been being kicked around for a very, very long time. The items that I was seeing in the paper were of a bilateral nature, and they didn't seem to be making a whole lot of progress. A group of us convened to address the issue comprehensively. Represented were elected officials and staff, and we had the Graham County, we had City of Safford, we had Town of Thatcher, Town of Pima, and the Gila Valley Ministerial Association. We began meeting in October of 2021. We had, I believe, 6 meetings in all. So as a result of those meetings, and again, one of the major issues that we discussed repeatedly, and the mayor was there and the vice mayor was there, and also the chief of police was at some of the meetings, was the idea of location. And as council knows, location is always going to be the sticking point, because everybody wants the center, just not in the spot you pick. And so we had all interested parties in the room, and we looked at a number of options, and it was a lot of the time we spent was looking for a place to put the facility. Ultimately, the group decided on 114 West 5th Street on the north side of State Highway 70, just west of State Highway 191. So as a result of deciding on the location, we then started to talk about the operation itself. How would the area communities get involved and make this an operational item? Graham County has offered $250,000 to renovate an existing building. Originally, we had talked about building a building at a higher cost. So that the Graham County stepped up with that. The city is offering utilities, in-kind services to the facility. And then subsequent conversations with the town of Thatcher and Pima would render some O&M. I've talked a little bit with Heath about that, so they're working on a formula by which they would calculate that. At this time, we don't have a specific number, but they are in the process of deciding what that number might be should the facility go forward. And of course, the Gila Valley Ministerial Association has agreed to staff the facility. So basically, we've thought about all the angles on getting it up and running, and so everything we need is in place in terms of the logistics of it. And so at this point, I think really it's just a conversation as to whether or not we want to participate in that project and make this thing a reality. So with that, I'll turn it over to you and the audience, and you can.
Okay, so before we ask for you to come up and speak, I will say that in these meetings that Vice Mayor and myself attended, as well as some other elected officials, is they ran it back quite a bit from where they originally started to help make this location happen. And that was that there were not going to be any overnight stay. And it is basically, and Vice Mayor can correct me too if I'm wrong, that it was basically a place for them to come off the streets, do some clothes washing if they choose to, get dry if it's raining, get cool if it's hot, and and then also at the Samaritan House, that they were going to be giving them opportunities with brochures of where they can go, where they can transit to, like if they're on the process of moving on, or if they need some rehabs or whatever, if those kind of people come, that they will have those brochures readily available to them. So they did run it back quite a bit, and I mentioned, because everybody says they want it, but not in my back door, I said, hey, the city owns property up by my place, let's put it up there, and of course that couldn't happen because of then a whole new build. So the monies that the county was going to donate just seemed to be a better fit for this location. And so I think that one thing that I was worried about, and I brought this to John manager's attention, was the possibility of people hanging out, at restaurants or whatever, or begging for money and stuff like that. And I talked to John, is there by chance an ordinance that the city could pass that would stop that? And Mr. Costello, you said we could. The council could enact a policy that would we would have to adopt to stop that loitering.
We'd have to look into that legally in terms of the location and out front, but there would be policies that were put in place as to the use of the facility and people gathering, and hopefully the idea is to provide a place in the rear of the building where they could sit and gather, so there would be no incentive to just stand outside. Now, obviously, if they're panhandling, there are things in place already to rectify that situation.
Okay. And so with that, does anybody else want to chime in, or do we want to go ahead and address that?
I'd like to, I don't want to preempt, but I just want to let those involved know that I think this is fantastic.
Okay.
It's probably the single biggest issue that's been brought to me as a councilman. And to get this far into the process, farther than probably anybody's ever gotten, is just a fantastic opportunity that I hope we take advantage of.
Mayor, I have something to say. I've met with my constituents and they are for it. So to go ahead and move this forward, they seem pretty positive about it. The only concern they have is that they do not want a rehab center or something to come right next to it. That's the only problem that they have. If anything comes up like that, then I think we'll have protesters or something.
Well, and I think that's an important distinction, and again, that facility is going through its own separate process, so it is separate from this facility. There was some discussion about renovations within the Samaritan House to provide offices that they could lease, which of course would support in a revenue way the Samaritan House, but the facility you're talking about to the east is a completely separate process that will go through P&Z, and ultimately it will come to council.
I'm just bringing that to your attention.
Okay.
So my people that I've spoken to, my constituents and all that, that's their only concern.
Go ahead, Vice Mayor.
And, I'm all for the idea and the location too, but I think one thing that's important is that we make it look presentable, since it is highway frontage.
Absolutely.
And I think, on the front, the sides, the back, I like that idea about having a place for them, if they want to gather, sit and talk and all that stuff, fine. That'll encourage them to, be there. But, and keeping the grounds looking neat, manicured and all, because that also kind of makes somebody think that this looks nice, I want to keep it that way. And it might even, help their attitudes and all that. So I'm all for it,
Okay.
and the location.
We ready to talk with the people?
Yes,
Good?
yes.
All
I'd
right.
like to-
Vaughn, I know that you've been spearheaded this up, so let's go ahead and have you come up first and go ahead and state your name, the address, your social security number.
How about the bank account number?
And your routing number or what?
I know more about your account than mine.
Just these sentences. Von Grant, that's legal.
Mayor, Councilman, thank you, and also thank you for your service. Got a little bit of experience there myself, and so appreciate your time and sacrifice and what you do for the city. It means a lot. I was hoping to probably go last. I don't know if there's a tremendous amount that needs to be said. I think it'll be interesting, just to give you a quick little thing, we've had some preliminary information, or designs to be able to work on the building, nothing in blueprint yet or whatever, because we didn't want to put, those several $1,000s into it before we were, had a go to work with it. But the building itself would be completely, it's got to have a new roof, it's got to have a new flooring. There will be 2 separate bathrooms put in it with private showers in each one, a place for 2 laundry, 2 dryers, 2 washers, places to sit in there with a couple of offices. That's one thing that we're going to change a little bit around, because we might be able to, use some space to rent out a little bit in order to cover some costs and keep middle amount going to any Safford or the county or, Thatcher or Pima, try to be as self-sufficient as possible from that standpoint. On the outside, it will have 8-foot fence put all the way around. That was one of the concerns with a very good neighbor right behind that particular property, because there's just a little chain link fence back there now. It would be completely gated off to the front of the building. So basically, in a sense, unless you were outside and watched an individual walk in, or you were outside and watched an individual walk out, you would never see who was there. They'd either be sitting inside, or they'd be sitting in the back where there's going to be a picnic table and some shade areas and things along that lines to be able to do it. Long term, we'll see. Give it a year or 2. Is it being used? Is it not? From that standpoint, if it's not, we can sell the property and use it strictly for something to do in that realm somewhere else. Just wouldn't stick to the Samaritan Home or the Gila Valley Ministerial Association. Our only goal is to try to relieve some, provide some mercy and some care. We all know that the majority of individuals that we're talking about that you would call homeless or things along that lines, 80% of them are there by choice, and you ain't going to change their choice on it. But you can provide some humanitarian service and some charity and improve their lives a little bit from what they chose from that standpoint. I know I have some friends. I call them my friends. I know them very well. That with the restaurant in that area, and also some other businesses that I know very well in that area, actually in the insurance there, that have some concerns. I know I've been accused of, hey, yeah, you're having it there. Why not have it next to your place, on Court Street? Well, I guess to answer that, if I could have the Samaritan Home or the other item next to me on the courthouse, do it tomorrow.
Yeah, I agree.
And I would gladly accept that. And so, but besides that, I really don't. If there's any issues they have right now with the homeless or situations, to the best of my knowledge and ability, it's not going to increase it. They'll come there for assistance and some help. Where they're staying is where they're staying right now, and it isn't there. And they would not be able to stay there from that standpoint. Hours would be pretty probably limited. We'd probably start with a Monday, Wednesday, Friday perhaps. I don't know, 4 or 5 hours a day. We'd have to see what the usage is and what the benefit is from that standpoint. But we're willing to man it and to provide as much funds as we possibly can to be able to do so. One of the biggest things that was brought to me by most of the individuals that possibly have opposed this was we can't guarantee that, hey, it's not going to increase, loitering around there or something along that lines. Well, there is absolutely no guarantees in life, period, except for death from that standpoint. But everything we've done and looked at and known, from taking care of feeding some of the homeless with the park and things along those lines, and Mayor, you're extremely aware of that situation. You have an organization that does extremely good at that, and
I don't think it's gonna create any more difficulty or problems than what already exists there in that area. And I think it'll be a wonderful thing. Questions?
Good, Councilman Houston.
Vaughn, I had one, and I just want to say again, I can't tell you how impressed I am with your efforts on this. I appreciate it. Do you anticipate staffing it mostly with volunteers, or?
No, actually, we've given some thought to that. We're working through that because all of a sudden we went from this building was 1 year ago was given to us and was actually going to be sold in order to provide money to be able to do other things, okay? And then things changed, and I think for the better on it. But we feel in our conversations, mostly with the Gila Valley Ministerial Association, that it would be good to have at least minimum one paid person there to be able to do. I would love a situation where, okay, we're only open maybe 20 hours a week or something on that lines, maybe 30, okay? But the individual we hired to be full-time there would, if that's closed, now they can spend their other time in looking and helping and getting to know the individuals that are that we're looking at, and the homeless and needing care and mental situations along that lines, that they become a person that the police department could actually send that person to now, that they find that has moved into the valley or something along that lines. That we can then get to know them and see who they are, what's their circumstances, what's their health circumstances, do they have all the benefits that are available to them from the government, or whatever it might be on that full-time person would do that 40 hours a week. But I'd love to see at least one full-time person there and one other volunteer there, so that there's two people there strictly from safety aspect along that lines, which is certainly we've looked at in a concern. We have zero tolerance for alcohol. We have zero tolerance for any type of, being on anything high or drugs or alcohol or whatever. They're not there if they are. It's zero tolerance from that standpoint.
How would you know? Yeah. Thanks. I'm glad to hear that it.
And one real quick, I'm only one person of many.
Right. I realize that.
So.
Everybody that's been involved, I just think the effort's amazing. I appreciate it from.
Thank you.
Yeah, I agree with everything, but how are you gonna know if they're on something or things like that? I know you'll find that answer, but.
Yeah, we'll have to work through that from that
It's an
standpoint on it, and have our set of rules and regulations and requirements that will be in place before it ever gets going, and certainly would love input into that. But we have been actually seeking input from other places and things along that lines in Tucson and down in Bisbee and Flagstaff that have been dealing with this for a long period of time, and they have a lot of those answers already.
Perfect.
Vaughn, will there be like a monitoring logging sheet whenever they come in, so we know how many times they come in and how many times they come out or anything like that?
We would like to know absolutely the individuals are there and why and how long and everything.
Okay.
No question.
I would like to see that statistics.
Oh yeah, 'cause we want, this is new territory. I think it's a territory that is I don't know, maybe I'm pessimistic. It's going to get worse before it gets better. And so hopefully we can catch it at this point and know a whole lot more on how to deal with it. And maybe it grows, maybe it stays the same, maybe we reduce it. But we got to try something, I think.
Anybody else have any questions for Vaughn?
Is the Ministerial Association, is it a 501c3?
Thank you. Good question. The Gila Valley Ministerial Association, which is basically just a group of volunteers that come from different religious activities. We meet once a month, and there's an average of 10 to 15 of us that are there. And I think there's an average of about 11 different organization churches that are represented. One of the best meetings, period, I've ever been part of and known to be part of, because we have so much more in common than we have in difference on it. So that's the Gila Valley Ministerial Association. Then there is the Samaritan Home. That's a 403B, which is set up so that people can donate and then get tax advantages both back. And that is what the Samaritan Home is underneath, is that.
Perfect. Anybody else have anything for Vaughn? Vaughn, I appreciate everything that you've been doing and spearheading up, and thanks again for being in the wheelhouse.
Thank you for your time.
Then we're going to go and we're going to ask Linda Lopez to come up and state your name, your address, and reason.
Thank you, Mayor Couts and Council. My name is Linda Lopez. I live at 1108 South 8th Avenue in Safford. I am the president of St. Vincent de Paul, and I've just basically started that either the end of January, the beginning of February. I have numbers, Vaughn, that you may want, and I'm willing to give this to the council if you like. To date, we have served 8,334 people, and that's just through like the mid-July. Of that number, you need to subtract about 7,000, which leaves somewhere around 1,500, and you need to subtract probably 300 from that, and that is the number of homeless that we have served since I've come in. I will also tell you we are going to be starting a clinic for the homeless and for low poverty. That's scheduled to somewhat tentatively start September 28th. And I wrote something else down that I can't read because I guess I do have my glasses here, but Vaughn, I have gotten in touch. Where are you? There you are. I have gotten in touch with somebody at the nonprofit meeting that can help you with benefits for these people. So if you're interested, give me a call, and I'll be happy to share that information with you. So if you'd like these numbers, I'm willing to leave them.
Perfect. Absolutely.
All right.
So Linda, you are in favor of the Samaritan Home, correct?
Oh my gosh, if you would see these people when they come in, it is much, much more than needed. They need some place to cool off. They need some place to get clean clothes, which they do come to us, but they don't have anywhere else to clean up after that. I did help with the soup kitchen in Indianapolis one time, and I'm going to tell you, a room full of these people, they need this building. They need this building very, very badly.
Anybody have any questions?
And I'm willing to help with whatever I can to help. Whatever you need, let us know, because we'll be more than willing to support you.
Anybody have any questions for Mrs. Lopez?
No.
Thank you so much. Appreciate it. Then, last but not least, the money behind the bags, Mr. David. Supervisor David.
Thank you, my friends who, the mayor, vice mayor, and council members, and John, for the work that's gone into this, for the facilitation. I am grateful for this opportunity and for the tone of the meeting. I wanted to start out, first of all, by saying that there are people who are, and I'm concerned for them too, people who've worked generations, some at the same place like Allred's Insurance Agency. They, anyone who feels like their livelihood, the value of their property, their prospects, their clients, could be off-put by a facility like this. I'm concerned and would do anything I could to help mitigate that and ease their path. They're in a difficult position because they're wonderful people who their acts of charity are private, not known to others, but they contribute to the community, and then to be put in a position of opposition to something like this, it's almost like a no-win situation. So I wanted to acknowledge their concerns, and and hope with the county's contribution that there will be mitigations, many mitigations. Also would like to thank those who were here in support of this. Not everyone has signed up to speak, but if I hope not to be out of line if I just ask the people who were here in support of this and concerned about this, if you would take a moment and stand for us. Thank you very much. And so, and also would recognize the efforts. Of course, the Gila Valley Ministerial Association it will be kind of a lead agency, but as Vaughn talked about a little earlier, the tremendous work that's done independent. A lot of times the left hand doesn't know what the right hand's doing, just because everyone from the Chat Ministries, the St. Vincent de Paul, the River Church, and so many other organizations and private individuals do so much, and we are not aware of their good works. But there's an opportunity to coordinate some of this if people will, and so we don't duplicate efforts and we can do more. And that kind of outreach is yet to come. But everyone, I would just acknowledge Graham County, Safford is a wonderful place because the people who they really do care, and there's a lot of love. I'll just briefly say that there are successful respite centers that came to my attention. I've looked at the Salvation Army. They have successful respite centers in rooms about half the size of our meeting facility here, where they help with snacks and do exactly what is proposed here, and they operate on a very successful basis. I'm a firm believer in fences make good neighbors. I don't know that this city ordinances will allow you to have, and I don't know that it would be aesthetically pleasing to have an 8-foot fence in front of the facility, because the old building's kind of nice, but I know that the side and the back, the walls would be there, and people would when the gates open, they would come through the gate and be out of sight and out of mind. They don't want to be on display any more than we want to see them. You know, they are you wouldn't think that they'd be self-aware, but they are of their distress. And most importantly, I just want to say that when we think about homeless, the chronically homeless are the ones who come to mind. But the truth of the matter is there are, and as Linda was talking, Ms. Lopez, there are a lot of people who are camping in their cars, who are newly evicted from their homes and don't know where to go, even for daytime. There are people who are sleeping on couches and at friends and neighbors' homes, and just good people who are opening their homes up. And so this center would be not just for the chronically homeless, but also for people who are working through, transitioning through homelessness, and looking for just a little help as they find opportunities for work. We had Lisa Lane from Arizona at work, and there are opportunities, and there are opportunities for service, for mental health care, employment, and a lot of times the people just they don't even have a permanent address. If they had a telephone or able to communicate with a computer with a family member, or say, hey, here's where you can mail me information about a job or about the veterans benefits, whatever, that the Samaritan Home would provide a permanent address for those people. And so I would just say I'm grateful for the Board of Supervisors. It's not me. It's all of us together, county manager, and as well as the people that the department heads. They support this. The support, $250,000 is a big chunk of money, but we give it in hopes of helping the community. I would say that what the city oftentimes is not recognized for, and I don't think you're doing it for the recognition, but the Mount Graham Safe House. If you look under homeless in Safford, they are in addition to the domestic violence, they help out, and they would not be there without the city of Safford providing the building. $1 a year, you know, just amazing. So you have stepped up, and we appreciate all that you have done, and to look forward to a collaboration and making our valley a little kinder, a little more loving place, and a place where the people who sometimes through no fault of their own, sometimes it is their own darn fault, but we're not the judge. We have very little moral authority. There are better people than we are, but I'm just saying I'm grateful to be here, thankful for the opportunity to work with the good people in our community, and with you, and with John and his efforts, and also Matt. So with that, I've gone over my 3 minutes. You could have pulled the plug or turned off the mic a long time ago, but thank you very much. Any questions?
Supervisor David, did, once again, you secured the monies by your, you want to speak a little bit about how you?
Sure. Well, it started out as a community development block grant. We allocated, I think we have $256,000 was our share. And as we evolved and looked, and as the time that clock kept ticking, we realized that and the strings attached for reporting for CDBG, that we had a surplus, especially with some of the CARES money, that we then put that CDBG money basically at the fairground for improving the park, and especially since our facility burned down, you know, the playground, and now have just replaced it with regular general funds, so that we don't have those reporting requirements and are able to not burden somebody else with that. But that's the source of the funds, Mayor.
Thank you. I appreciate that. Anybody else have any questions for Supervisor David?
No, sir.
No?
Thank you very, very much. I will, I'll sleep a lot better tonight, knowing that things went well tonight. Thank you.
Okay, so we need just a little bit of direction, and I think that you got your direction, John?
Yes.
On where we need to go with this, and start doing a wrap-up and get it going.
Well, I think the next step will be trying to work out some type of IGA, probably.
Okay. And will that IGA have a term limit? For instance, we want to see it go, but there will be a 1 year.
Well, in any IGA we set up, we can always put a year as the pilot, and then reassess and see where we're at, and then look at renewals after that.
Absolutely, and I think, and in that also needs to say if the Samaritan House dissolves, and so does that IGA.
Yes.
Absolutely. Perfect. Thank you.
That's one of them, you'll get back to us in a year I talked about the other day.
Let's hope it won't
Okay.
take that long.
No, it won't take that long. Thank you, guys. We appreciate you. All right, now we're going to go ahead and enter into 15-2, the Police Department additional officer position request. John, Chief?
Mayor and Council, this is a request for discussion and direction regarding the ability to add a police officer position. In a previous meeting, the mayor asked me to give a presentation on the Safford Police Department's current staffing levels and what it would take to get additional staffing with boots on the ground today or now. We're going to be covering tonight a lot of numbers, and to answer that question, along with this, I'd please ask you to ask questions to make sure that we clarify everything, and to probably get you not to get too weighed down in the numbers. The numbers don't tell the whole story. There's more to it than just that. like I said, the numbers don't tell the true story. There's a staffing and with the effects of low staffing at the Safford Police Department. We begin to just respond from call to call and not do a lot of the self-initiated or those kind of things. There's been factors that start to affect the performance. In the past 2 months, we've had officers working with a police psychologist who specializes in PTSD. We've also sent one officer to the hospital for mental fatigue, which occurred while on duty. And just like this next part here says, studies have shown that when we're understaffed, we become susceptible to injury, physical fatigue, mental fatigue, substance abuse, and people start to leave the department. The department is reaching its breaking point. We have employees in the police department which are maxed out in sick leave and some in vacation, and we're struggling to get the opportunity for them to use that time. So that's part of the issue that we've brought up in the past with some other things. Our current staffing level, 22 sworn positions. This shows the staffing level that we have and the fact that we currently have only 10 patrol officers working because we have 2 in the academy. We haven't added a full-time position since 2007. That was the last time we added a full-time police officer position. In 2017, we added a part-time position, and the school matched it, so we added an officer to the school resource. We've replaced those that have left or retired, but we haven't added a position since 2007. Part of being a police officer, and I want to explain this some, is we answer criminal calls for service. We do other things with that. We answer the calls from dispatch and also those that people stop us on the street or give us information. The other thing we do is the self-initiated work, the things that we don't get called to, but we have to do as we're asked as law enforcement to help protect this community and do those kind of things. This is just a short list. So it says, you know, officers, they divide their time to be able to do this. And so we have to try and figure out what time it takes to accomplish the goals and the things that we have to do. Over the years, the police have been tasked with more and more responsibilities, kind of like this. They just talked about the Samaritan Home. We'll be tasked with helping them. We get more responsibilities, more things that we have to deal with, and the homeless is one of those things we've dealt with a lot lately.
Chief, you did say we can chime in at any time,
Yes,
correct?
please.
So currently, we have up to 22 sworn positions, but you only have 10 currently. I'm talking about patrol officers. So altogether, how many are you allowed to have, or should I say, and then what are you actually working with?
So this slide kind of shows that. We have chief, captain, 4 sergeants, 1 school resource officer, 3 detectives, and 12 patrol officer positions. For the last year or over a year, there's a slide here that shows later, we've only had 10 patrol officers on the street. And this has come to different things that have occurred within the department, turnover, or other issues that we've had to let go.
And so then it's just been hard to replace those positions?
I will get to that, but yes, we are struggling with that, Mayor.
And so you also mentioned some of these things in the Safford Police Services and self-initiated work. You mentioned some stuff, and what is interesting is all the stuff that you guys are currently involved in, and then we ask for a little bit more every time we want to fund something. And then I can tell you that our traffic isn't getting any smaller. It's actually expanding. And I've noticed that as I try to pull out of some of these fast food joints, you know, and stuff, and I get, you know, kind of mad, you know, waiting my turn. First of all, I'm already upset at how long it took to get out of the fast food joint. Anyway, so our city's not where it used to be in 2007 when you have not added another position.
Correct, and I will.
We've grown.
Yes, Mayor, you're correct, and I will answer some of those questions with Manpower and kind of show where we're at.
Keep going then. Okay.
And I appreciate you realizing that yes, we have grown and changed. Getting out on the highway now with traffic is very difficult from time to time, and it becomes worse depending on time of days. So,
okay.
And this may help with some of that question. This slide shows the service calls for service total for just last year. It shows how Safford answered 46% of the total calls for Graham County with their 10 patrol officers. The rest of the county answered the other 54% of the calls with 24 patrol officers. So we're answering a lot of calls with very few people when it comes down to it. For your understanding, when you talk about how things have changed since 2007, last year, Graham County as a whole filed 420 felony cases. In the first half of this year, we've already filed 312 felony cases. Of the 400 or 420 that they filed last year, Safford was responsible for 300 of those. Of the 312 they filed in the first half of this year, Safford's responsible for 264 of them. So what's changing is not the drastic number of calls, they're not going up drastically, they're going up slightly each year. But what's occurring is the type of crimes we're dealing with, the type of incidents that we're going to, the situations that we're having to work through. So dealing with that, we talk about the manpower, and we talked about at the beginning, I told you there's a difference in the calls for service and the service that they do, the other things that they do, the rest of the job, as I like to call it, the responsibilities they have that aren't calls for service. So just to briefly explain this chart shows the manpower hours the department used and how they're divided. The first section shows the total manpower or man hours used to respond to calls by dispatch or community. And that's where they stop us on the street or wave us down, those kind of things. It does not include the self-initiated calls. So this is strictly calls we're responding to. We had 7,136 calls. We spend an average of 43 minutes on scene, and these numbers are numbers I can pull out of our computer system. It tracks when they arrive on scene, when they clear the scene, all those kind of things. So it gives us those numbers. We do the math, it comes out to 5,209 man hours. The next section there is we're asking very low, 50% of the calls, we have 2 officers on scene. In this day and age with crime and the way things are going and violence, it probably should be higher, but at 50%. And we do the 99 because they're on scene almost the exact same amount of time as the original officer. So taking that 5,209, doing that math, it comes out 2,578 more man hours. The next section shows the total number of hours used for booking someone into jail. We average that 2 hours per person to book into jail. It seems a little high, but almost 80% plus of our bookings now have to be cleared through the hospital before they'll let us put them in the jail. We have to clear the fact they're not a harm to themselves, they're not on some kind of substance that's going to cause them to do things. So it takes a lot of time for those officers to sit with them there at the hospital to get those cleared. That comes out 638 man hours. Next we take the written reports, and this is just the original officer on scene, and I'll give an example so you understand why that matters. An hour and 15 minutes seems kind of long. It takes them to write reports, but that's also including logging evidence, their body cam footage, doing all the different things that are required in the background. This is only the original primary officer on scene. So for an example, our double homicide we had a month and a half ago, we had 10 officers on scene, and all 10 of those have to write reports. That's not added into this. All 10 of those have to log evidence, all 10 of those have to do body cam footage. So that becomes a different situation there. So just for the primary officer, 8,920 man hours. So in a total year, just for calls for service, not the rest of the job, 17,345 man hours. So then we try and figure out the rest of the job. We call it proactive or self-initiated time. That's when they're out looking for DUIs or drunks on the road. That's when they're out doing school zone traffic control. That's when they're out doing drug enforcement if they can find them on traffic stops, those kind of things. And if you notice there at the bottom, we have 40% and 50%. What I'd like to concentrate on is the 40%. So I'm saying 60% of their time should be calls for service, 40% of their time should be that self-initiated, proactive time. It also includes all their court time and those kind of things. And so we're going to concentrate on the 40% time. In a 10-hour shift, based on Fair Labor Standard Act rules, police officer works 1,846 hours in a year. It seems low because the normal's 2080, but because of Fair Labor Standard Act, during their shift, they get lunch and the break. So it comes out to 1,846 hours a year. Concentrating on the 40% proactive to do all the rest of the job, we divide that into that 28,908 hours, and it comes out to 15 patrol officers. And this is in the perfect world. This is with no sick time, no vacation time, no training. No one ever gets time off. This is every officer working all the time. So then we take that total time, we take out the sick time, the vacation time, training hours, those kind of things. Still sticking with the 40%, 28,908 hours. divided by the 1846 minus the sick, vacation, training, and other things, and our numbers would come out to 18 patrol officers. Now remember, I asked you, don't get way down in the numbers. There's more to it than just the numbers. Don't just automatically assume, oh no, we have to have 18 or we're behind. We are behind, but it's not just the numbers. Current staffing levels in Safford at 12 patrol officers means we're working at 18% proactive time, not 40%. Problem is we've only had 10 for the last year plus. So we're actually lower than the 18%. So we're getting the rest of the job done at less than 15% or 18% of the free time to actually do that. And I call it free time or proactive time. It's when they go out and actually do the rest of the job. So it's tough. And there's a lot involved, especially even court. When we have that many more felony cases, that many more things, they have to be in court more. The industry standard for police departments working less than 40% of proactive available time is strictly a reactive department. That means we're basically just going from call to call and trying to get the rest done in between the best we can. We're short-staffed to the point right now that our detectives are actually been the ones transporting inmates back and forth to court because our patrolmen don't have the time to even be in court if they can help it. So we're taking our detectives off our major felony cases and saying you have to take people to court and sit in court with them. So we're to that struggle at this point. I threw this in here. Show Low Police Department last year paid for a Manpower Study, and they asked us to participate as a like agency. This slide shows that Show Low has just less than 2,000 more population than us, and that's why Show Low is highlighted, just so you know they're the ones that paid for it. So that's why it's highlighted, not because I did that. They have less than 2,000 more than us, but currently have 10 officers more than us working. Their study said that they should add 2 more officers immediately, based on their study. And to compare closer to us, the city of Winslow, just over 100 less than us in population, still currently has 7 more officers than Safford. And I know this isn't apples to apples. We're not exactly the same. You can't look at one city and say here or there, and that's not what I'm asking for. But I do know that the city of Safford, with 10,000 population, that's not really our true population, because we know that every day we service a population of anywhere from 20 to 40,000 people. The people that come and go and shop here from Graham, Greenlee, Northern Cochise, New Mexico, and the reservation are here almost daily, that we service anywhere from 20 to 40,000. The other thing this doesn't show is, if you look on that list, we're the only city that offers all our own utilities, which means our infrastructure is larger than any of these other cities. We have more internal infrastructure that we need to deal with. We watch over and protect when the utilities get damaged or those kind of things. We have to investigate those and cover large areas. It also means that, sorry, lost my spot here. What's interesting is that we're getting the job done with less people. We're accomplishing what we're doing, but are we giving the best service to the citizens of Safford? You got to kind of question that. So what I looked at is the base salaries. This is the current base salaries in Graham and Greenlee County. This was after the budget year this year. And I waited till we did this and made sure, I went and called and made sure with each one of their agencies and their HR departments that this is their current base salaries. As you can see on here, Safford's the second lowest in Graham and Greenlee County. So when you asked Mayor, how do we get boots on the ground? This is probably the starting point we need to look at. This is where we begin. We've had a lateral position offered and advertised for over 6 months. We've had 1 applicant. That applicant had been fired from previous employer and had some background issues, so it wasn't something we wanted to jump on.
So if I put an application in tomorrow, my starting salary is $48,859.20.
Yours would actually be 6% below that, because recruits start at 6% below until they graduate the academy.
And I can go and apply for the county and get $500 more.
Yes.
Interesting.
The difference between, like I said, we've had 1 open for, like I said, over 6 months. We've had 1 applicant as a lateral. We've actually got 2 in the academy now, but we started that application process clear back in February. We washed them out of the background. We started, I think, with 9 applicants, 8 applicants, lost a few in the background process, and ended up with 2, one of which we pushed through, luckily, right at the last week before the academy started.
So, Chief, if I can interrupt real quick too, if they graduate, let's just say they will graduate the academy. That doesn't mean that they're going to come work for you. They can pay you back. They can go somewhere else, correct?
We pay them and sponsor them through the academy. Once they graduate, we verbally ask them to stay for 2 years, but there is no contract process that makes them stay. There are agencies that do that. There's some that do and some that don't. And there's actually discussion around the state now onto whether that's legal or not, because it becomes some type of contract system. So I'm not sure where to go with that answer right at this point.
Ultimately, they could leave you. They don't have to come to work for the city.
Ultimately, yes, they could. While in the academy, agencies that pay a lot more could go offer them a job and say, they could call us and say, hey, by the way, I'm finishing the academy for XYZ agency.
And you're
Yes,
back
sir.
you're back to zero.
Yes, sir.
Interesting. Go ahead.
Chief, what, I don't know how to phrase this, but getting only one applicant for an advertised position, to what extent do you have knowledge of why there's only one applicant? Are they able to access this information and not apply? Are they,
So,
what are your thoughts there?
Law enforcement is a different animal. Sorry, Mayor and Councilman Hempfield. Law enforcement is kind of a different animal, especially in Graham and Greeley County. We work federal grants and things like that where our salaries are actually posted. And so, yes, they do have access to salaries. They know what they make or don't make. They also know how the salaries will grow. One of the things you talked about, the drop earlier, law enforcement officers know the day they can, you talk about that 20-year, 25-year, they know that almost from the day they're hired, what day they can drop or what day they can leave. They pay attention to those kind of things. Is that why they're not applying? I can't answer that 100% by any means, but I will give you the example. In the last month, like I said, we've had one applicant in the last 6 months. In the last month, town of Thatcher has opened a lateral position. I don't know the total number of applicants they have, but the difference is, I know they have one because one of my officers that's been here 6 to 8 years has already come and told me I applied. And the difference is we advertise a lateral from $48,000 to $65,000 pay based on their year's experience. Thatcher's advertising from $59,000 to $81,000 based on their year's experience. So my officer with 6 to 8 years that gets hired in Thatcher, he's getting anywhere from an $8,000 to $10,000 a year raise. My highest paid patrolman at Safford had been at Safford 23 years and went to work in Thatcher and got a $12,000 a year raise. So I don't know if they have access to it, but I would assume it's pretty common knowledge.
Right. But yeah, I didn't expect you to know. I guess the piggyback question to that is, you said you're not even sure what Thatcher got on, they got one. But is this kind of across the board? Are most municipalities having trouble getting applicants?
Yeah, we live in, I'll get into that a little bit, but we do live in a day and age where being in law enforcement is probably not the most sought after career currently.
Right.
I'm not going to deny that. And I can answer that here in just a minute. I got something that goes with that, but yes, I will answer that, Councilman Hempfield. Thank you.
And we're work session, right? So you don't.
Yeah, you don't have to address me anyway. You can call me a-hole. I don't care.
It's the right thing to do. Sorry.
Okay.
So I went out and looked just for the first half of this year. This is a perfect example. This is calls for service just this year. On the left is the total calls in the first half of this year for all the agencies in Graham County. On the right is the total calls answered per patrol officer in Graham County, per their agency. As you can tell, we're answering over 150 more than the next agency. Quite a bit more up there. The hard part is, I hate to say it, this is kind of to answer your question, Councilman Hempfield, is it's hard to say, come work for Safford, work harder, we'll pay you less. And that's kind of where we're at here, and that's why I bring this up. But to get back to answering the question from the original, why we wanted it, Mayor, you asked, what would it cost to hire a lateral today to get boots on the ground? And this slide shows it just under $122,000, and that includes, because it's a new officer, we have to buy all the equipment, vehicle, radios, laptop computers, bulletproof vests, gun belts, guns. So there's a lot to that. It's not just salary, that's all the other equipment that goes with them. What it doesn't show, back to what you asked earlier, Mayor, it doesn't show the risk of sending someone to the academy. they get injured and can't finish or graduate, we're out whatever money we've put into them up to that point. They fail out, they've passed or failed 2 tests during the 18 weeks, we're out all the money we've put into them. They don't graduate. Or if another agency hires them during that thing, we're out all the money we've put into them. It is cheaper, obviously, to hire a lateral because we pay salary and usually are on the street rather than a year for a recruit. They're on the street working within 3-4 months. It takes that long still because of our background process. We can't just hire somebody, say, yeah, you're a good fit, we think you're good, run a criminal history and say, yep, they're clear, let's hire them. We have to go through an entire background process with polygraphs, psychologicals. Arizona Post has to sign off on their background once it's done. We have to talk to everyone they've lived with or any residence they've lived in with landlords, owners, and else for the past 5 to 10 years, depending on what it is. So even for laterals, we have to do all of that background. So it does take a couple months. It's not something we hire them today, they're on the road tomorrow. So there is some process to it. There's a solution to maybe the possibility of what we're doing here. And by changing the salary ranges for the police department, we've become more competitive with the other departments around just in Graham County. And if you notice, I haven't gone outside Graham County other than to show the population issues, because this is what we deal with. 90% of our recruits and laterals come from Graham County for the most part. I would say 50 to 60% of the current officers we have in Safford are laterals from some other agency within Graham or Greenlee County. We've got them from Clifton, Greenlee County, Graham County, Pima, and mostly all right here within Graham County. So doing this, it sounds easy. We know it's not that easy because you can't just say, let's raise the base salary, because then you run into compression issues with paying new hires more than those that are ones that are already working here that have been already protecting the citizens of Safford. So it becomes more of an issue of just do this. There has to be more steps, and that's why there's a few different things in there with steps and raising bases and those kind of things. Total approximate cost, $341,941.05. That would obviously be if we did an entire full year. If it was prorated or we started in the middle of the year, it would be less, but that's what the total cost would be. I just wanted to show this because if you take the time, you count up there, there's 20 sworn officers in this picture, and I would ask that we not forget the office staff and keep us going each and every day. They're amazing people. I put this picture here to show that these amazing people are the ones getting this job done every day. We live in a time when law enforcement, not the most sought after career. It's not something that people are looking forward to. It's become hard throughout the country. We're having the same issues here in Safford. I will say that the city council, the other departments, department heads, the manager, the citizens of Safford especially are very supportive of law enforcement. We appreciate that every day. We are treated better here than anywhere. I've talked to lots of officers from other places, and they tell me how bad it is in their cities, and we are treated very, very well, and we appreciate that very, very much. It is a great opportunity and experience to be able to work here in Safford. I will tell you, we go out of our way as a police department to keep morale up, to try and overcome and keep people here as best we can. I don't want to throw ourselves under the bus to Arnold, but on the P cards you notice there's been some meals and things on there, and that's part of that is we're trying to raise morale. We celebrate anniversaries and birth dates and those kind of things, and we try and keep that morale going each and every day. Because sometimes this job stress helps us, we got to do things outside the norm to make sure that they're mentally safe and they're mentally okay. It becomes a big issue. The problem we're having right now is I currently have, like I said, one officer that's applied for Thatcher. I have one officer that came in to me today and said he's almost done with the background process to go to work for DPS. So we're currently in the process of possibly losing 2 more officers within the next month or 2. So this 10 patrol officers we have, 20 total officers could become even less very quickly. So that's kind of where we're at. So because of that, this would be the targeted staffing level. And I understand we're not going to get 27 officers today. I know that. That's not the question. This is what we're saying based on calls for services. This would be the goal we'd love to get to. But the real truth is we're asking for one immediate position. And then from there on, each year through the budget process, kind of review where we're at, calls for service, those kind of things, and make a decision on where we go. And some of those things we need to look into each year, because it does change year to year. It's not always the same. So in conclusion, I just want to recap. You guys talked about the drop process earlier and where we're at with the drop thing. 5 officers currently in the drop program. 3 of those are detectives who have the most specialized training. Without that training, they all leave. We're going to spend a lot of time trying to get somebody caught up to where they need to be able to investigate those major crimes, those situations. Excuse me. So what we're asking for is one now, a position now, currently certified if possible, planning for another position in the next budget year if we can get it, and then that'll help us work on that proactive, self-initiated time that we can go out and do things for the citizens of Safford other than just going from call to call. We can go out and accomplish things and work on areas that need to be worked on. Part of the issue with this is, and I skipped it back there, but if we don't deal with the small things, we don't deal with the truancy, the curfew issues, those kind of things, then we start ending up with major crimes later on. The burglaries become more common. The other crimes become more because we're not dealing with the small issues. We're too busy running call to call. I threw on this last section here because the office staff, so you know where we're at with them. Like I said, 2 of them are retirement eligible. 1's retirement eligible within 2 years. They're going to be leaving. The police department's working on succession planning. We're trying to fill the holes. We're trying to plan for the future. We're trying to look at what do we do. By adding an officer now and hopefully a second one in the next budget year, it gives us time to send 1 or 2 officers to some of those detective trainings to be able to fill those holes when those detectives all leave. So those are kind of the issues of where we're at and what we're looking for and what it takes to get an officer on the ground working. I appreciate the opportunity you've given me. Is there any questions?
Chief Orr,
Yes.
I just want to commend you and your men, okay? I have something to say here tonight. I've worked the field. I've worked in Pima. I've worked in Greene County. I've worked the whole county by myself without backup. And what these men and women go through every day, we need to understand as a council that they're putting their lives out there for us. And they deserve better pay, I feel. Our officers here in Safford. And I don't know how else to express this and do support for your department, Chief, for what you need. But I don't think we need 1 cadet or sponsor 1. I think we need 2 positions to be filled to help you get what you need to where you need to be. Because this department's going to be falling apart pretty soon. And you guys are going to be running crazy. Because I know what it's like with the stress factor. There's a lot of stress involved. So I think we really need to evaluate this and look into it. And it really upsets me that we have our men and women working like this. This is not right. This pay, it needs to be upped and really looked at. So I'm asking you as a council to please think about this. The police department needs us. We support them. And that's all I have to say.
Just to clarify, Mike mentioned 2 cadets. The request is for a lateral, or whatever. Is it whatever?
If we can get a lateral person on the ground, that's going to help us a lot and much faster. It's going to help the city. It's going to help the citizens. Those kind of things. Yes.
But that's going to take us about a year if
Right.
he goes in the process. So a lateral will get the city boots on the ground. So I want to chime in real quick. I want to chime in with the fact of, first of all, the Safford Police Department is doing a phenomenal job with the staffing that they've had. They have accepted the call, and they are doing it with flying colors. So I want to make sure that the media understands that it's not a frenzy. Our city police has done like I said, a phenomenal job, and they are still answering the call, and they're still securing the city. So we are in that position. I asked for this because the city is growing. The number is growing. I do believe the number that you see is not just your citizens. The number you see is, you didn't even put down how many times you're at Walmart opening up a car door or whatever. I mean, so in other words, you have that. The thing, so I don't want to make a frenzy out there. I want to make sure that there's calm amongst this. And you did a phenomenal job with the presentation doing that. I'm very, very disappointed with the level of the funding that we've got to. And I realize that the town of Clifton has to be very eye-appeasing, you know, to be able to keep some of their officers. The damn Safford is the big dog on the block, and we're not even getting the play time, if you may. And we need to get up there. We need to get up there with that. How are we going to get up there with that? It's a very good question, because God, I would have really loved to have had this presentation for this year's budget. So now I'm thrown into next year's budget. How am I going to get boots on the ground today is something that the council's got to say. We really want to dive into this. We really want to look into it. There is contingency monies. We just gave Lanza almost $100,000 for an engine, and so we do have the opportunity for that. The thing is Chief, is for me to get to answering some of these questions that you have up there. I can't get there overnight, but I can get you there. I really do believe this council wants to get you there. And so how we can get you there is something that we've got to really, what I want to say, put some pressure on, if you may. I don't know if that's the right terminology to say for put pressure on staff to get us there. I just said it, so I guess it's out there. It's going to be hard to get a lateral when you're the lowest dog in the show right now. It's going to be really hard to get a lateral. Right now, I wouldn't take less pay to come work for the city just to wear the city colors. I mean, I love you guys, but you know what I'm saying? And I'm sure that's what they've said too, you know? So we've got to take a serious look at that. We really need to take a serious look at that. And so I hope I reached out enough to know that they're doing a dang good job with the amount of people they have. You guys have secured and kept safety within the city, even during these last month and a half crazies. You guys have done a phenomenal job with that. So hats off to you for that. And I want us to really focus on what we can do in this process to getting us where we need to be.
I strongly agree with that.
Just to make a point, contingency should not be used for ongoing expenditures. So the type of expenditures we're talking about here are ongoing costs to the city going forward.
Okay.
When we use contingency, we use it for one-time expenditures.
purchases.
So using it here would not be an option. In fact, let me just read something that shows up every time we do a budget presentation. The annual operating budget will be based on the tenet that ongoing revenues must support ongoing expenditures. The other issue I have is that I really appreciate your presentation. And basically what you just gave is a presentation for the city of Safford. Every single employee, every single department could give this same presentation. How long did it take you to fill a mechanic's position? And it's been what? There you go. So the story you heard tonight is the story of this city across the board. And this is what I've been talking about during these budget meetings, right? We let this go too long. So Glenn's story is an accurate story, but it's not just the police. It's your entire workforce. That's why they're leaving, right? That's your issue. So if you want to keep employee morale up, this won't do it. This will destroy it. Okay, so
Wait,
again,
what will destroy it?
well, if you're putting the police out there when everybody else is going through the same process, they're underpaid, they're losing
Well,
employees.
first of all,
they
I don't
can't-
think we're talking about the others. I think we're tonight.
But we should be.
Okay, hold on, John. Tonight, I want us to focus on the police, because that's what's before us tonight. We're not asking for, I'm asking for a lateral. I'm asking for boots on the ground. That's all I asked for.
So what if we do this? What if we do a signing bonus that brings the lateral up to speed with area salaries so that you get your boots on the ground, they come in, they get their signing bonus that puts them up so you don't upset the current breakout for your years of service, And if the intent in council is to move all of the employees in the police department up in the following year, that employee will then move into that new range after they get here. So you close the gap with one employee by giving them a signing bonus now, and then next year, they just go right into the new level as you increase the cost in the following budget year.
You know, and just one thing I want to make, say too, is I totally agree. We do not use contingency money.
Right.
Because that is something that, we don't want it to be using the money.
Correct. And again, there's a reason for that, because no one does it anywhere. It's terrible budgeting, okay? So again, if the idea is to get boots on the ground, give an individual a signing bonus, get them up to a level that's commensurate with another shop or beyond it. And then this council can look at budgeting for this in the following budget year and moving the entire range, which is one of your slides, in order to get them up to where they need to be. I don't disagree with anything Glenn has said. All I'm saying is we're all in the same boat. All your employees are going through it. I hire a community development inspector, we train him, where is he now? He's in Thatcher. Sound familiar? Right? So again, I want to make sure that we're very clear on what we're trying to do. I don't think anybody would look at this presentation and say that there's not validity in it. I'm just saying the how is very, very important, not just for the police department, but for the city as a whole, and also for morale. And one of the things I've been talking about all along is to be systematic. Let's look at this systematically, and let's implement it in a regularized process so that we can fix this problem over time in a way that doesn't get too far out in front of us, and also doesn't leave the rest of the employees behind. Okay,
Well,
so again, that's my position on it.
So the thing is, and as Chief Orr has suggested, that, and I want this because you opened the door a little bit, that we're losing, and you even said it yourself, John, we're losing people to our neighboring communities.
Yes, we are.
So we're not losing them to Sholo. When you go out and you do a comparison schedule of all of these other cities and towns like Safford, which we see all the time when you bring a price to us, you need to focus on what is currently here and what the pay is here and why we're losing who we are to our neighboring communities. That's the true record.
I agree. And
That's the true record.
And that is a discussion I had with the HR director, and I said, when we come back, and you and I have talked about this, when we come back, we're gonna agree on the communities to which we compare ourselves to. Before we bring you any updates or anything that goes forward, we're gonna agree on who we compare ourselves to on a regular basis. I don't think it's too hard to look at that and say, hey, we're underpaid. My concern is how do we address the issue? And that concern, go ahead.
So I think tonight, I think you found a way to get us a boot on the ground.
I think so, and without increasing the entire police budget.
And if that does offer a position of a lateral transfer, which would be great, but at the same time, if I want to sign up for this lateral transfer and I get a sign-on bonus, and if this council chooses to do nothing, I left a higher paying job for a $10,000 sign-on bonus to be stuck at $48,000 a year.
Right, but the conversation we're having right now is you want to do something right now. What I'm saying is if we're committed, and again, I'm not going to commit the council to future expenditures.
Right, absolutely not.
But if we're looking at this and we're feeling that this is egregious or that this is obvious, then I would say, and quite frankly, I've had this conversation multiple times with the chief. He knows how I feel about this. I've talked to him repeatedly about addressing the employee issues in the police department specifically. And I said to him, this year I want to get as many employees as possible because we've waited too long. Let's hit as many people as we can. And I assured him and asked him to sit down with me and go over the police department operationally from top to bottom, shifts the whole 9 yards, and let's make police a priority in the following budget year, again, along with all our other needs. What happens if in the middle of this year we hit a recession and we've given all this money to the police department and we can't pay anybody else? Again, it's the how that's important. It's because you have an entire city to run. And my heart goes out to the police department. I'm not saying that the things that he's talking about are untrue. Yeah, but everybody is facing the same issues.
Chief, you have a question first.
Well, first, Mayor, I appreciate Manager Casella's comments. I don't disagree, but first I'd like to address what you said for the public and for the media. We are not in a panic mode at this point. We are answering and responding to calls fine. We are shorthanded. We're not doing a lot of the rest of the job, those kind of things. And so yes, I agree with you. Please, thank you for clarifying that. This is not a panic mode that we need to go into where that's the answer. My concern with Manager Casella's idea of giving a sign-on bonus is now you have 18, 19 other officers who say, well, they got a bonus to come here, I guess I'll go somewhere else. Because everybody around the state's offering a sign-on bonus pretty much. And so it becomes an issue of, are we trading him for her? I don't know.
Signing bonus is a means to an end. It's a bridging action that will be rectified systematically, hopefully, when we go into the next budget cycle. So at that point, you shift all the salaries, and then you don't need the signing bonus. And people get signing bonuses all the time, right? And they get housing. It all depends. And again, this gets back to our issue. Just let me conclude what I'm saying. This gets back to understanding that you don't go 3%, 3%, 3%. What you do is you look at the situation you find yourself in, and you react to the environment that you're dealing with. Right now, we're dealing with an inflationary environment, right? So we should accommodate that as we make decisions in our budget. We just had a meeting today on the CIP. A big part of that discussion was, how do we reconfigure our CIP so that we can actually build the projects without doubling our rates, right? So again, the idea is the signing bonus as an end in of itself may be problematic, but if the signing bonus is a temporary fix to get one set of boots on the ground so that council can systematically address the overall salary structure in the police department in the upcoming budget cycle, which makes more sense because you really should be using contingency for this, I don't see it as being as the same as the scenario that the chief is painting right now.
Okay. Councilman Anzola, you
And
have
can you refresh my memory on why we didn't put this in the budget again?
Well, first of all, I didn't see a presentation like this from the chief. We talked about being proactive, right? And so, to me, proactive meant, okay, you're gonna have more time out in the field, and that's fine. But I didn't see anything even remotely like this, right? So I'm seeing it like you're seeing it, except obviously I've seen it in staff meetings. But again,
Mr. Casella, I'm gonna stop you right there.
Right.
I showed you this chart and talked about manpower
I
hour
didn't say
during
you didn't
our
show me
budget.
all of it. I'm saying
when
I
I
didn't
asked
see
for
this entire
manpower.
presentation before. I didn't say you didn't give me
Okay,
anything.
I just want to make sure, because
Yeah, no,
yes,
I'm
I
not-
did cover
I'm not saying
this.
that, Glenn.
Okay.
I just didn't see anything as this comprehensive
Okay.
before. And again, the point is that here we are today. Wherever we've been, doesn't matter. It's all about where we are today and where we want to go. And again, I can't emphasize this enough. The reason I bring things to you like a budget guidance resolution is because I'm giving you the opportunity to tell me where you want to go. Not just in the next budget cycle, but over time. How do we fix the issue with the police department? How do we fix the issues in public works, community development? You got an entire city to run out there. You've got all these utilities and capital improvement programs. It's not one thing in isolation, it's everything together. So let's address everything together. Because if you don't, you're gonna end up right where you are right now. You
Okay,
need to
so-
fix things systematically and have a cycle.
I want to spearhead this in now. So, Manager Casella, you actually started this year, you started to spearhead this in. The council is very generous this budget cycle.
I agree.
We offered really good insurance that got us up where we need to be. I think the staff, or I think the employees are seeing that the council is working towards a goal, because we've overlooked some areas. And so we are in the process of getting where we need to be. I know that we can't get there overnight, but the thing is, of course, you know me, I'm always shovel ready. I want to do things overnight, right? But realistically, we need to get there. And we need to get there with the process. This year, we handled the insurance. I think next year, we need to take, and I do believe that the budget system's going to be completely different next year, where we actually get the opportunity to see stuff like this from each and every department, so that we know what we're looking towards and what we're looking for. So tonight, I really would like for the police department and the management team to get together and come away with something that would work for both parties and get us something that's going to be, that's going to work with the police department, it's going to work for the city, and that's going to be a win for the citizens overall. And I do believe we can get there. And, you know, I mean, if I need to be a mediator, right now I'm kind of calm, and I don't know why, because maybe I'm past my bedtime, I guess, I don't know. But I think we can get there. You guys think we can get there?
You're saying to address the need for a officer.
For one right now.
Yeah, and let them talk about it and see how we do it.
Something that works for both parties.
And you know, to me, it's something that should be addressed in next budget.
Absolutely, it will.
You know, and I wish we could find a way to bring somebody in, you know, laterally, if you have to offer more money, something like that, to get him here. And it's the council's job then to get everybody else up. You know, we have some big job to do, to solve this issue once and for all and make it start running smooth.
And you know what, Vice Mayor, I know that we'd like to talk about the budget in January. I really think that we should start the budget before we get out of here this year.
Exactly, and I think that's the direction that the city.
We've already started.
Yeah.
And we have a new budget schedule we're gonna roll out, so the budgets will go out in November, we'll get them back in January. We're already looking at the revenue projections, but of course, the revenues have to start coming in the new year before we can project them.
So we're ahead, you know, we're moving ahead.
Is it accurate to say that you've already done what the mayor asked?
In terms of?
Getting together and figuring it out?
Well,
go ahead. Sorry.
No, go ahead.
Mayor and Councilman Ethel, I will tell you, yes, we've talked and we've worked things out. And I think part of the difference is understanding the law enforcement mentality is different than your normal. And I hate to say it, but we're different than your normal employee.
I would agree with that.
Okay, see, he agrees.
I'm
so
very
instead of I
agree.
think where we draw the difference is you talk sign-on bonus because that's kind of your normal for most entities. For me, it would be we're willing to hire a lateral, but we will pay them for their years of experience. So if we get one that has 8 years, we're going to start them at a step 8, not a hey, we signed you on and paid you more than the new guy. We're paying you for your year's experience, for your training, your understanding. So yes, we can do it without maybe disrupting what's going on. But like I told you, we've had that position open since the early part of this year, January, February, and haven't had any applicants already.
Signing bonus attached to it currently?
We've offered to pay whatever their year's experience are. But the problem is every entity.
That's a no, there's no signing bonus.
No signing bonus, sorry, not an actual signing bonus, because the problem with signing bonus in an agency our size is as soon as you do a signing bonus for one, everybody else now feels like they're getting gypped somehow.
Right.
And so we pay them for their year's experience. The problem is every agency out there pays for years of experience. So an officer at the county, that's their base salary, but 4 years, 6 years, whatever in, they're now up also. So what we're offering is we're growing pretty comparable, so it's not. And so that doesn't attract them. And that's where I was going with that. You got to raise the base salaries and all the way across to be able to get that attraction. Doesn't mean we can't get them. Doesn't guarantee we won't get a lateral if we have a position. So if we go forward with just, hey, we're going to figure out, we'll fund a position, then that's a position. It's better than nothing, and we may end up sending somebody to the academy because we don't get a lateral. And it may take a year to get them on the street. But a body's better than a body than nobody. Sorry.
So real quick though, John, before, I know you have something on your mind, but I got something too. About 3 years ago, it might have been a little bit longer, we did do something significant to an individual, what is it? People, the lineman crew.
Oh, the electric.
We did those individuals got a significant increase over everybody else during that
And
subjective
what was
year.
the impact of that?
Huh?
What was the impact of that?
I don't think there was anything. I think
I
some
don't think it
people,
was
some
no good
people
for
left.
morale.
Some people left, some people stayed. I think, the majority of the people stayed.
And
I mean,
we-
what
and
I'm
I don't-
saying is people aren't all in the line to quit because we bump one. I mean, like this year, we're gonna look at, that year it was the line crew. And we busted them up, and I think we've kept most of those people now. And next year, focus is on the police department. The next year, focus needs to be on public works. I mean, we need to focus on these individual groups that are coming and making sure that that's where they are. I know that you want to spend $20,000 getting a company to come in and assess where we need to be. But I think that our HR can do her own assessment and come away with pretty much the exact same figures that she would spend $20,000 on, and she'll come away with the exact same thing that says, hey, our levels aren't where they need to be. They need to get up there, and it's up to us to get them there to give you the funds.
Mayor, in response to that, I was here back then when we did that with the electric department. It was mid-budget year, and it was done because they were leaving to go to REA making more
Right.
money. So it is similar. I would ask, though, based on what you just said, you can't say this year we're doing this, next year we're doing it. By the time you get to year 3 or 4, there's not anybody left in that department. So I'm just asking you, for the whole city, you got to look across the board on that. The police department's asking, because that's my job, that's what I'm here presenting.
Okay.
But citywide, there is an issue that needs to be dealt with.
And the other issue I did want to bring up, recent events, recent cases. So to me, I sit here and I say, why now? Why today? Why did we kind of lob this grenade out there and say, hey, let's look at the police department, right? And I think part of that is because there's concern, right? We had a lot of high-profile cases, and I know I've gotten phone calls from this council concerning communication with the public, right? And I think part of the issue is that in some degree with these high-profile cases, the public felt more unsafe, right? So I think part of the issue is that there is a perception in the community because of the nature of the high-profile cases that maybe they're not as safe as they should be. And I think a good part of that can be solved by better communication. And again, I'm not trying to be critical, I'm just saying that we had a conversation at the radio station the other day with David Bell, and his kind of request of us was to be more communicative across the board, right? Obviously, when it comes to public safety, if somebody shuts down my street in the middle of the night and there's all these lights flashing, I'm a little concerned, right? Unless somebody can tell me that whatever made all those officers show up has either been subdued or left the scene, and I know that myself and my family are safe, I'm concerned. And if I'm there that long, are they thinking that it's taking that long for us to be effective? And I think part of that is because we're not communicating with the public. I know there are members of this council who have indicated we're not communicating with them. And so I think that can go a long way toward alleviating some of these stresses. That in no way diminishes anything that Glenn has presented, or Chief Orr has presented. But again, I would caution restraint. I would caution that we approach this, as the chief has said, holistically. Let's fix the problem holistically, and let's not continue to make the same mistakes we made that put us here in the first place. That's all I'm saying. I'm not dismissing their request. I have the highest respect for the police department. But as the city manager, my concern is with the city as a whole. And I'm saying to you that this approach is not tenable. We need to be comprehensive. We need to be systematic over time.
Anybody else have anything?
Was your figure of 48,859, was that after the 3% given out?
Yes, that's our base salary. The 3% did not change our base salary.
The 3% did not change your base salary. So this reflects the 3% that was given out this year.
Yes, sir.
So it's not, you're not 50 and you're not below that. Okay, and we also enhanced the health insurance. we made quite an effort this year, and we did get the manager and Cabrini out of their comfort zone with the 3%.
Yes, sir.
And that was an effort that we put in across the board for this budget. And I know that. We did make an effort, so. The one thing you said about noticing you were feeding people for morale, I also noticed that you had to feed people because they were eating in place over those 3 incidents.
Yes.
You had to go out and get food because our officers were in place and couldn't leave.
Yeah.
I noticed that too, Chief.
Yeah, that's part of that morale issue, is just keeping them going, keeping them, they've
Yeah.
got to continue on, they're 16, 18 hours in, got to
Yeah,
keep going.
So I noticed things like that too.
And I appreciate that.
And the first thing I read when you brought this up was using reserve funds. Well, we couldn't, right off the bat, we can't because of our policy. That's one-time monies that we cannot use for expenditures. That was already, it would have had to been found somewhere else, the monies.
Yeah.
And so that couldn't have gone.
Councilman Lopez, yeah, that was put in based on the mayor's request originally, is what would it take to get boots on the ground, whether it was contingency or reserve funds. So I used his wording into that.
And then you said 10,000 across would help deal with compression.
So to explain that is the officers currently, say we have a new officer, they're making a dollar amount. We raise the base salary, and what that number is, you'll notice the base salary when I put that was 10,000, just to make it from 48 to 58. And so you'd have to go across the board, or we end up with officers, which we currently have to some extent now with 15, 16, 18 years on, which would only be making maybe 1,000 more or 2,000 more than the base. And so now you're hiring brand new officers in, paying them the same amount of money as an officer that's been there 15 years. So you've got to move them all to keep from having that total compression of what's going on. We currently have in our department, we have a situation already like that, but not bad.
But I don't understand the need in changing the ranges too. If you give them all 10,000 across, that maintains that compression.
Because the reason for changing the ranges, by doing that, we have to change the ranges to keep them within the range field across there. And so
you're just changing the wording of the range, or is that
no? It would actually
money coming?
It would actually so currently our base salary is based on range 6, 48,000. To raise it to 58,000, we've changed the range to range 8, and then it grows from that range, so that it still starts at the base. You're not hiring somebody in at 75% of the range. You're hiring them in still at the base of the range.
So you're talking about the 10,000, also monies you would get from having a range, being bumped up in a range. So that's added money too.
The 10,000 would come from changing the range, basically keeping them all in the same step in the range. So instead of going from range 6, step say 5, we don't all of a sudden take them, oh, you're now range 8, step 2. Do you see what I'm saying? And then all of a sudden now the new hire is only 1 step behind, even though you've been there 12 years. Do you see? So it's just a matter of keeping them on the same step.
I'm still not quite getting it, but I will, because I'll keep after it.
Now, I want you to get it though, Arnold, because I need you to get it. This is the work session.
So maybe the easiest way to explain that is, if I have an officer with 10 years on, and they're currently now at say 59,000, and we change the range, and our base goes to 58,900 and something. So they're making $100 above the base now, at 10 years as a 10-year officer. And then all of a sudden we hire a brand new recruit, send them to the academy, they graduate the academy, they're making $100 less than a 10-year veteran. Do you see where that comes in? So if I raise the base, then I need to raise the rest of them to match, so that we don't have that compression to where we have 20 officers all within $200 of each other, or $500 or $1,000 of each other. They're not crammed in there, because the year's experience actually does make a difference.
Is there any other raises coming along this year, say like 2-year something or other?
So
longevity still to be had? Is there other raises going to be given to you this year?
So to answer that question, that's what the issue we currently have. I have two 22, 23, maybe even, I can't remember, there might be 24-year detectives that are making less than my 15-year detective because of how those steps occurred. And so I've already got that compression issue going on that we, you know, that they know because of the way those steps rotate around the years they're hired. My junior detective's making more than my 2 senior detectives.
And I
So-
want every employee to have more money.
That's where we're trying to
but
fix
it
all
comes
those
out of the
issues.
citizens' pocket, so that's
Yeah.
where I have to ask questions in defense of them too.
And go ahead.
Didn't some of the officers, I think some of the officers did their staff plus the 3, so there was like 9 officers that got 9% this year. So
Yeah,
they
those-
did their step, they did their 6% step, and they got the 3%.
So those are your, in that first so many years step system there. And that's what we're trying to stop that compression. So they got that, 9%, and if we raise the base 10,000, now they're just barely above the base again. So all the steps they've had, they lost
So let's
basically
not
as
raise
far
the
as.
base then.
And so that's where we're at. And if we don't raise the base, then we're not keeping competitive with other local agencies. And that's why I said, it's not an easy answer. I threw that in there to tell you, this is not a simple, hey, just do this, everything's great. It's an option. I'm not saying it's the easy answer.
And you're well-equipped.
Yes,
You go to lots of training. You're not neglected any training.
no.
We just got we got a Tahoe
Well,
getting outfitted
The
right
part of
now.
the training is we don't have the manpower to send a lot of people to training.
Yeah.
But other than that, yes, we're going to the training we need to.
But we're not neglecting you in that.
No,
Training and equipment.
no, no, sir.
And also, you said something about if they get training and they are obligated to stay with us a while, well, we just talked about that last month or whatever, so if it's against the law, we're gonna get sued. We're gonna
No.
get sued in the other areas too.
No, it's not saying it's against the law. There is and maybe I should clarify that. I probably didn't answer that quite right. There are agencies out there that do it. There's a question as to whether ethically it's right or wrong, whether they should allow it or not, because they're charging their employees if they leave, and they've actually gotten to the point where I know of one officer that they've gone to court suing him for the money based on he left before a certain day, and I know of one sheriff that's threatened to go after their certifications because they lied to him about not staying the full 2 years they promised him. So there's all these ethical, legal issues that are kind of go with it. I'm not saying it's impossible to do. There is just some question as to whether it's a good plan or not. And the honest truth is, if you don't want to be here working for me, I'm not sure I want a miserable employee
Absolutely.
in this job. So I'm not sure that's the right answer either.
Absolutely. Well, it's a little rough. Well, how many openings do you have right now that aren't filled? One?
Currently none.
Currently
With the
none.
2 openings we have, that we've had for honestly, it's been almost 3 years, ever since the first opening came open when Jeremiah French went on admin leave, and we've never been fully staffed since that point. So it's been almost 3 years we've been understaffed, but we have the 2 positions we currently have are in the academy. We're hoping they graduate in December. It'll be next April or May before they're on the street, probably by themselves answering calls.
So you have
So-
no openings that need to be filled before we try to add another officer?
No, sir.
Now, you got people, we talked about drops earlier. Now, there was a reason, and I don't know yet why, I guess I gotta find out, why people in police, people in the military, people like that are encouraged to only do 20 years and leave, you know? I don't know, they want the turnover, high stress, they wanna keep a younger bunch, or what the factors are in this, so, you know.
Well, I can tell you from my years of experience, I've been here 31, almost 32 years, going on 32 years in law enforcement. It used to be, for an example, when I applied at Safford, I came from the county, I'd been at the county 16 years. When I applied at Safford, as a lateral, there was 32 applicants, 32 lateral applicants at that open position, for one position. And so there was lots of officers, lots of people in the career, those kind of things. So they were encouraged to, hey, get your retirement, get out, go find another career, go away, kind of thing, because we want young, healthy, aren't gonna get in fights and get hurt, aren't gonna do those kind of things. The problem today, and that's the reason they're trying to extend the drop 2 years, is we're not getting the applicants, we're not getting the officers, we're not getting the people. So let's see if we can keep these people a little longer. Let's see if we can keep them around, struggle through it. Thus, the reason the drop extension is only good until 2028. So anyone that doesn't meet the criteria by 2028 goes away anyway. This 2-year extension that they're asking for is only for about 5-year type period. In 5 years, it's just an extension to try and drag it out a little longer, hopefully get more people hired in. Then that option goes away.
Well, the officers across the nation have a negative about them because of the way things are now. It's not only the pay, it's because people are not wanting to enter it.
Yes, sir. I got a phone call just this week from an officer, well, I guess it was last week, today's Monday, but from an officer in Florida wanting to know what it would take for him to come to work. And so I explained to him the testing process to get his certification. The state's taking those. They just have to test out. Doesn't have to do an academy, all those kind of things. He got through, we talked for 20 minutes, 30 minutes. He finally said, okay, what do you pay to start? And I told him, he said, oh, never mind, there's no way. That's, and I'm sure he's coming from Florida, who knows what he's making. But it was, okay.
Well, I don't know, I think the vice mayor said, and I think I agree with him, we've made our budget this year. We need to figure out a process to get you where you need to be, but we probably not till we start talking budget again, as far as I'm thinking right now. There might be something else going on that will get figured out, but that's where I'm seeing it right now.
You know, Chief, what we pay in overtime would probably fund your officer.
Pretty close. Yep.
And then man, I don't know. I understand that, the budget's been ran. God, I wish I would have seen this sooner. And that's why it's good to have this. But I will say this, you can't compare departments within departments. That's not even right. Some departments, the stress level's completely different than others. Finances, stress level. Poor Cabrina, she should have like 3 months off right after budget cycle, just to chill out. But saying that, the police department's very unique, very different. Fire department's the same, very unique, very different. The linemen, very unique, very different. They're dealing with, gas department. Every single piece is very unique within their own ways and very different. And so I have no problem subsidizing one department a little bit more during a budget cycle than another department. I have no problem with that. If the criteria meets, and the criteria needs to be when you present your budget, this is for everybody, when you present your budget, to bring the raw material to us, unretracted, unredacted, all that crap that goes on, you need to bring the real numbers and say the reason why you're wanting what you're wanting and allow the council to hear what you want to present. And then us get those, and then we start the gear in motion. And then Manager Casella can then start thinking, okay, I really heard what they had to say, and here's how we're going to get there. He's the one that's going to get us where we need to go. I think there's an opportunity to get something happening. I think that you have 2 officers, and I hope and pray that them 2 make it and get you 2 more on the ground. I would hope that you have the opportunity to work with John Casella to get us something laterally that's going to work for both, that's going to work for the residents of Safford, that's going to work for the council, it's going to work for the manager, and it's going to work for the police department without disrupting. I think we can get there. It's going to take some giving and taking. We all got to do that in life. And I think you guys can get us there.
Mayor, may I clarify just to make sure I'm understanding? And like I said, this was a discussion to begin with, so I'm not, that you're not hurting my feelings here. I hope you understand that. What I'm understanding is you want me to, obviously, the police department, myself, to work with the manager to try and figure out a way to fund for a lateral position currently? Or are you saying, let's work on that for the next budget? That's what I'm trying, just want to make sure.
I personally would like to see if Wes work with now. Now.
Okay.
And that's something that's not going to disrupt you. And I need you to be very positive within the police department and let them know, hey, this council listened to us tonight. And guys, gals, we might not get there today, but just hang on, because I think we're going somewhere. And then John's going to see what he can do with Cabrina, and they're going to, you guys can work together and make it happen.
And Mayor, I would say thank you very much. I be honest, I think you probably just told about 80% of the department what you wanted to hear, because I'm pretty sure most of them are probably watching. Not to say that was bad, I'm glad you said it, so that they know where it's coming from.
Yeah.
If you're asking for me to be positive within the department, you're asking the right guy, and most of them will tell you that I'm usually very positive about where we're at, what we're trying to do. I'm very honest with them about things.
Yeah.
They've never questioned where we're at with the policy, or with budget, or what we're doing. We meet quite often and discuss it. I come out at night and talk to the night guys. I make sure they know what's going on. So I appreciate that very much. I will be more than happy to work with Mr. Casella and the manager and Cabrina and whoever, and if we can figure it out, either partially in this budget, you know, we're partway through the year, it'd probably be less than 6 months by the time we get somebody on the ground anyway. With what we have, maybe through the overtime, those kind of things, we'll be happy to work something out. That's not hurting my feelings. I presented this based on your request. This was not me coming forward saying, give me everything.
And I appreciate that, and I think you guys are going to do that, and once again, I appreciate it. Is everybody?
One more thing.
Oh, you got
And
one.
now we can seek lateral transfers because we're not observing their past retirement.
Well, we do observe the past retirement, but anyone hired since 2017 is a different retirement, different system. So unless they're 8, 10, 15 years in, it's really not gonna matter.
Because that's something that kind of
Yeah.
put a dent in us and pulled back on the reins, was holding back from absorbing all that.
So most of that's been taken care of and changed. So unless it's somebody with a lot of years on, it wouldn't matter. And we're not getting those kind of applicants currently, so.
Just one more thing.
Sure.
I'm glad this was brought up now and the way it was. That way, the process it's begun, and you made us aware. And I think I can only see positive coming out of it now.
Absolutely.
Mayor, Vice Mayor, and Council, I would like to end basically saying thank you. I appreciate it. I think most of the department heads will understand and agree with me that I've been pretty much a fighter for the rest of the city and the whole city at a time. Tonight, I presented for the police department because that's my department. That's who I'm responsible for. So I appreciate the opportunity, and we'll see what we can work out for you.
Thank you. Before we move on, I do want to make just one more quick note, and it's nothing to do with the police department. It's just as department heads in general. Truthfully, you guys, the buck stops with you to build morale. You guys are the head of your own ship. You guys are in the wheelhouse of your own ship. You guys know what the council has done for the staff and for the employees, and I think the council has been very generous in the opportunities of giving you the tools necessary to build morale. So I'm tired of hearing the word, we're going to have to build morale by this and that and the other. The thing is, it starts with you. If you're happy, then you're going to splash off on those other people. If you're not happy, then you need to go find a different job as well. I 100% support that. You got to be happy. You got to be happy that you're working for the best city in the state of Arizona. I firmly believe that. I love my community, and I want you to love your community that you work for, that pays your wage. And if you're not happy, then I'm sorry. You need to present your case. You need to present why you're not happy. So I encourage you to build morale. You build morale, you make it a happy place. Hakuna Matata, okay? That's going to bring us to the cemetery policy. Lance?
I'll be as brief as possible, Mayor. This was brought the last August 8th meeting, and in your absence, we were asked to bring it back again to discuss expanding the benefits of the cemetery policies and regulations. If you'll remember, back in November, I brought a policy update, hadn't been updated in probably 13 years, and the main update, or the main change to that was to not require giving a space to active employees and active firemen and their families, making council approve that, giving that to the employees without having to come for approval. And then in July, we brought another update, just from verbiage update to specify the benefit or the dependents of firemen and their employees themselves. So I'm just going to summarize this and then let you guys discuss it. But it's always been a benefit, as far back as I can find, that the current city employees, active firefighters, and their dependents got free opening and closing of the grave in the event of loss of life of either their loved one or the breadwinner in their family. The added benefit of one free cemetery space without the council waiver was included in that November 21 update, and the language clarifying the dependents was also included in the July 2022 update. These benefits have only been applied to current employees and firefighters and excluded retired or former employees. It's staff recommendation that for tracking and clarity purposes, that the policy remain as approved in July 2022. And then I attached a copy of the policies there and leave it open to you guys for discussion.
Councilman Lopez, did you have a chance to really look into this?
I looked it all over, and Lance has beat this up already. I think he's got it there. And I had made mention about retirees, and everybody kind of, so I'm not bringing that back up again.
I think it's just too hard. I think it's too hard to track.
Yeah,
to a certain era, we said if people have been here 20 plus years, I mean, it's hard to find that information.
Another wish list.
And the main benefit of this is, don't get me wrong, this is to help active people and their families if they're in a time of need, if something arises.
This kind of started a year and a half ago. We lost one of our own.
Couple of them.
It was brought to our attention, and I think we've gotten to where that request is filled now.
Yep.
Anybody else have any comments for Lance for some direction? We good?
I move we adjourn.
Second.
Thank you.
All those in favor?